It's the cold hard truth. Everyone really want to know what's going on with her show. Just get on the air and you will know it's Sandra. The queen of the mile road is here, helping people from everywhere. Get on the phone and you will hear Sandra. Now she will tell you how it goes, but don't you ever step on her toes, 'cause you will hear the cold hard truth from Sandra. They say she's the hero in town, helping people from all around. You get a call, your money is found, it's Sandra. Some will call her late at night just to say that there is a fight, and she will not just leave it alone. She'll get up and call on the phone, and when politics starts on her show, everyone really wants to know the way the things will really go with Sandra. And some will start to criticize, get on the show and tell pure lies, but someday we'll realize it's Sandra. And when they start to argue again, she'll pull the heads to the wind, and soon you will be a friend of Sandra. 'Cause every day everyone wanna hear from Sandra. 'Cause every day everyone wanna hear from Sandra. 'Cause every day everyone got to hear from Sandra. 'Cause every day everyone got to hear from Sandra.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, beautiful people, all living in the absolutely amazing and wonderful Cayman Islands. Happy Thursday or Friday, part one, depending on the kind of vibe you are feeling today. How is everyone doing? Everybody's good? All right, fantastic. We're good here in the studio, live and direct. Yeah. So good morning to Miss Abby. She's the first one to say good morning on the live link. We're all my usual suspects this morning, waiting for them to say good morning. You know, saying good morning is a Caribbean thing. I hope it's not just the Caribbean. I think maybe other places in the world still remember their manners, but definitely here in the Caribbean, we believe in saying good morning. When you pass someone, you speak, and just common courtesy, a little bit of respect, you know, nothing wrong with that. Total strangers. And I know that sometimes if you're from the big city, you're looking at people going, why are they speaking to me? You clutch your handbag a little bit closer, like, what's going on here? What do they want? Are they trying to get to me somehow? Nope. We're just saying good morning. That's what we do. We just say good morning. How you doing, honey child? Yes, that's the beautiful people in the Cayman Islands. So all you have to do is say good morning back. Not complicated. Caymanians think you're rude when you don't. Oh yes, just in case you're wondering. We're like, that woman not got no manners. Where in the UK is she from? London? Oh my goodness. No manners. She needs to do better. That's what we're thinking when you come to work first thing in the morning. And You don't say good morning. All right, poor Zeus is trying to get up in his morning chair. All right, sir. Ugh. There you go. Now you can relax a little bit. He likes to sit in the chair now. Okay. All right. Checking my messages this morning. Someone says, good morning, Mrs. Hale. I was wondering if you know something about a program run by the government to help the people, the Lawrence Foundation. Is it real or is it someone running a scam? It's a scam. They said they were trying to reach Nicholas DaCosta as they were impersonating as someone who's a member of the Lawrence Foundation. Nope. All scams. Unfortunately, our government officials don't have the time to keep up with these scams. And, it hardly matters reporting them to the entities like Facebook and Instagram, because they don't seem to have a handle on it either. And quite frankly, they don't seem to care. They really leave it up to the consumers to be smarter than the scammers. And so, yeah, you've got to be smarter than the scammers. That's what I can tell you. So all those things are scams. Don't click on it. Don't forward it. Don't try to message them if they message you. You can hit the report button and then just block it. Yes? Okay. So we've got another Ministry Matters segment today with the Honorable Rolston Anglin. We're just waiting on him to join us. So as soon as he does that, we'll go ahead and get started. In the meantime, gonna just check in on everyone. There we go. There's some more people. Good morning. Good morning. Hello, Miss Patricia. How are you? We've got Wee Wee and Strong Wilt both here. Stephanie Brooks in the house. Good morning, honey chow. Felicia Rankin and Marshall. We've got over 115 people already. You guys, I feel like you're waking up a little bit slow this morning. You're like, Auntie, I'm still finding that live button. Where you at? We are right here. Windsor Park crew, good morning. Good morning to Washington Boulevard. Baden Towners, East Enders, good morning to you. Zeus, what are you looking? Cut it out. Good morning, Caymanians in Florida and the UK and all over the world. Where my bears at? Good morning, West Bay. You guys good? They're like, yep, we're good. We're holding it down over here. Last couple of days, is it my imagination or have there been some really crazy police reports? Oh my God. I don't really do the crime blotter, but I saw some of the headlines popping up on CMR channel and I was just like, what? Police ran over what? Got ran over? Oh my goodness, what's going on? Drama at public beach. I keep telling y'all, we have got to prioritize cleaning up public beach because it's only a matter of time before someone is going to lose their life there. Oh my God. I don't even want to say it, but when I say it, you might as well mark it down in your calendar. Me and this goat mouth that I can't seem to control. Please sort it out before that happens. And unfortunately, it's a bunch of imported riffraffs I'm hearing from people in the know. That's what is destroying our public beach. Crazy. So there's another arrest made there again. Like, what on earth? There was an accident yesterday. Did you guys see that? Where a woman ran into a lady and then a house, an apartment. I'm hearing it was some kind of medical emergency. Oh my gosh. That's crazy. Good morning, Miss Lucille, joining us all the way from the UK. We appreciate you tuning in this morning. Vicky Joy says, Mia peeps. Right here, front row. Paul joining us from Bermuda. But Paul, stick a pin. What is this news that I saw yesterday? direct flights between Cayman and Bermuda. Was that my eyes seeing correctly? Wow. Bermuda Air, is that how you guys pronounce it? Bermuda Air launches new Grand Cayman service. How long does it take to fly? Oh, I guess we'll know because we never had a direct flight before. I was going to say, how long does it take to fly from here to? Yeah, so tickets for the new route go on sale on Friday, with flights operating twice weekly during the winter season. It's going to operate via the Turks and Caicos Islands, which has also been added to the Bermuda Air network. So that means it goes where? From here to TCI and then to Bermuda? Interesting. Well, I'm kind of low-key ready to check this out. I've heard so much about your beautiful island, Paul, that I'd like to see it for myself. TCI, I'm not so sure because the crime I'm hearing over there is a little bit crazy. You know, I don't like to go to crime-filled places, I'll be honest. So, but I'm interested in seeing Bermuda. Of course, anytime you have these new routes, I'm always like safety first, crime prevention first. So y'all know the deal in Turks and Caicos. They're going to be trying to bring some drugs to Cayman, and we can't have that. So make sure customs, y'all be on the lookout on those flights, honey child. You see someone all of a sudden trying to import some oversized teddy bears or something, you got to know you got to check their belly. Probably full of some cocaine or something. I'm just saying. Who's messaging me this morning? What's up? Oh, that's my cousin says, we are going to Bermuda. All right. Simmer down. I got to go to Austin first. Yep. And visit some cousins who are in the vicinity. All right. Miss Omira says, well, I'm here. Pleasant good morning. Pleasant good morning to you too. You forgot the sister islands. OMG. Where are my manners? Good morning to the beautiful folks over in Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. We cannot forget you because we are all one. Yes, thank you, Abby. I appreciate it. Where's Curtis at? All those beautiful people in Cayman Brac. Although, you know, I keep saying there's something special in the water over there. Something we are trying not to import to Grand. A special kind of madness over in Cayman Brac. Oh my goodness. What a hot mess. Irvelyn, hello. How are you? Look, it's Jillbird Johan in the comment section. Everybody say good morning to Jillbird Johan. Good morning, Jillbird Johan. How's life in jail treating you? You okay? World Cup starts. Is it tomorrow? Kickoff is tomorrow. So that's exciting. I'm not really a soccer fan, but I'll be kind of keeping some tabs on the situation. Who are we pulling for this year? Just give me a team. Brazil? Yeah? Okay. I think they can do it. They have a very good squad. Always. Strong Wilt says Cayman Bracas. Yeah, boy, they special. I like the Brac. Nice and relaxing, and you know, I've secured myself a few pieces of properties over in the Brac. That's retirement phase 1. But boy, some of the people over there, I don't know if they're gonna be much of a retirement unless they hurry up and leave and go to Scotland or wherever the heck they're gonna be going, because what a mess. CC McLaughlin in the house. Good morning to AJ. How are you? You can do a bit of island hopping. I mean, yeah, you know, I think that's a good idea with these new flights. So Bermuda Air is looking at expanding their footprint across the region, which I like. I'm feeling it. Okay. Deborah, how are you, darling? Town folks here and representing Towners. Where them Towners? Towners at? You is a Caymanian. It's not soccer, it's football. That's the American coming out of me. I'm so sorry. I'm just used to growing up calling it soccer. Football to me, as soon as I hear the word football, what comes to mind is American football. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. But I feel you. I feel you. Yes. AJ says Turks and Caicos used to be such a beautiful and crime-free place. Well, it's a cautionary tale that anywhere beauty is not going to save you if you got crime in the mix. And that's why, here in the beautiful Grand Caymans, in the Caymans, including all 3 islands, we have to take it seriously. We have to take crime very, very seriously. And we have to get ahead of it. Getting ahead of it doesn't mean building more jails and, having more courts and all that kind of stuff. It means, prevention. Put programs on the forefront of all these things for our young people to keep them out of criminal activity, out of gangs and other things. This week, I have discovered that we have a lot of expats here in this country who are starting to really act up. And I don't even mean, I'm certainly not talking about our Jamaican cousins. I'm talking about those of the European flavor. I heard 2 wild stories this week. UK and some other European country that I can't remember right now, some Slavic country. Got these men here, they're beating on their women and they're abusive and they're dragging them through the courts and trying to take their kids from them. And I'm like, what? Y'all have come to the beautiful Cayman Islands and you're acting the fool in our country? What is wrong with you? Yeah, and they think just because they own businesses or they're partners in businesses like the agency, and I'll call them out here this morning, that somehow is going to give them some protection because they believe they got money and they can just buy status. Boy, y'all better start doing some deep dive fishing on who these individuals are. Their real character. Not the character that wants to show up to, Rotary events and chamber events. Oh, no. These people are something else. Drugs. Oh, yeah. Y'all need to start drug testing these people. Not paying their PR fees. They are doing the most. And I'm sitting here going, what? Y'all trying to catch up with some other people with criminality, man. What the heck? No, sir. We got to rein it in. I'm like, how do you go to somebody else's country and do drugs, become a cokehead just because you think you own a business? How do you go to somebody else's country and wife beat and all these kind of things? Like, what on earth? What is wrong with you people? Go back to the UK and keep that over there, please. And thanks. We don't want that kind of behavior in our beautiful island. Minister, I see you sitting down. Are we ready? All righty. Honey child. Paul says, I hope to be on the first flight to Grand Cayman on Friday. Come on through, Paul. Come on through. We got you. Come for another visit. Paul comes all the time, actually, from Bermuda. He loves Cayman. I think you come at least twice a year, right? So, Mr. Famous, I love this direct flight because you and I can finally meet in person. That would be awesome. All right, folks. So you guys, I think, have a good fix on what Ministry Matters is all about. However, if you have forgotten It's about direct communication with the government. It is about accountability. Let me put on my glasses so I can see. It is about your ministers coming and sitting down with you, answering your questions as directly and forthright as they possibly can. Finding out what's actually going on within the respective areas of government. Yes. And I'm pleased to say that no one has put themselves in the hot seat more than the Honorable Rolston Anglin. He's here on a regular basis, sometimes, 3-4 weeks in a row. And despite what some people think, because, some people are like, oh, Sandy, sometimes, I don't know, he look like he be getting annoyed. And I'm like, well, some y'all with some y'all questions, I would be getting annoyed too. Let's be honest. Honesty is the tenet of everything we do here. But honestly, speaking of being honest, yeah, even that, he's human. If he has a question 50 times and he's like, why aren't these people getting it? Well, you know what? I tell him, tell us 52 times, 51 and 52 times. Cause it takes a minute. But it takes, and I appreciate, and I was kind of chuckling yesterday when you guys were saying that where's Kenneth? You all miss him because he used to be the one to always answer the phone. He regularly will, come on the program and all that sort of stuff. Kenneth, despite his imperfections, as we all have, he's always that person who is willing to take his licks and come on and, meet the people where they are. And I can't say that for everyone. So I always give someone credit where credit is due, because I'll be quite honest with you, can't be an easy job. I never want people to think that even some of the things that I say when I'm critical of them, I don't want anybody to think that this is an easy job. Miss Brenda says that's old news. What's old news? I gave y'all old news this morning. The Bermuda route is old news. What's old news? All right. Anthony says that's to be debated. Uncle Brian, leader of the opposition, came frequently too. I know he's disappeared now. PPM keeping him in line, honey child. They're like, don't go over there. We need you to stay with us. Let's say good morning to the Honorable Minister. Good morning, sir.
Morning, Sandra. Good morning, Kayman. Good morning to all your listening audience, because we know that people are streaming all over the world. And it's always good to be here. Sandra, you are 100% right. If we say it a million times, we need to say it 1,000,001. And the last time I was in this position, being a minister, back in those days, there was another morning talk show that was the most popular back then, Ross Talk, which was on Rooster 101.
Yes.
And Sandra, I was the most frequently appeared minister back then.
Wow. Really?
I've always said that you must come to the people to explain your position. You must always be about being accountable. And one of the most important ways of being accountable is being direct with the people. You can get up in Parliament and debate the opposition, debate whatever issues in front of you. But when it comes to coming on this sort of setting where anyone can call in, anyone can write in, it's critically important. For me, Sandra, and you know my position on this. It is all about what you do in regards to the public good. What are you doing to try to make the lives of Caymanians better? I think a key part of making the lives of Caymanian better is explaining what you're doing, why you're doing it, and ensure that there's a public education piece to this. We must always be about trying to open the doors of government so that people understand the processes, people understand what we're doing, why we're doing it, because in doing that, you're making Cayman a better place. Because
Mm,
debate is good. You know what? You know what's annoying is
mhm,
uninformed debate. When people are dragging up history and dragging up stuff that is absolutely incorrect.
mhm,
That is our job. Our job is to come with a truthful and correct position so that
mhm.
people can then look on and make a decision and say, okay, is my life going to be better for this? Is the
Right.
future for Cayman going to be better because of this?
Mhm,
That's what drives me every day. That's why,
mhm,
as a 28-year-old, I left my old accounting firm and my life in public accounting,
mhm.
is because I have this desire and had this desire from the time I was a small child to make Cayman a better place. Sandra, I will say this until the good Lord takes me home.
Mhm,
I'm extremely proud of the fact that I'm the son of a domestic helper.
mhm,
There's a lot of people that love to try to recreate who their family was once they start
mm,
well in life, right?
mm, mhm.
My mother was, God bless her soul, was so short that they had to make a special um, stand for
Mhm.
her to be able to reach over the washboard and wash other people's clothes as a young child when she was taken out of school. Um,
Mm,
that ought to be something that every Caymanian, then especially young people, look on and say, well, if he can have that beginning
mhm,
and wind up going to one of the best universities in the United States, graduate with honors, be a CPA, be an elected member, become a minister, then I can do it too.
yes.
Right? There was nothing about my family name that got me in any door, that opened
Mhm,
any door for me. And
mhm,
so this is what life should be really, really about, is when we are authentically ourselves,
mm.
good, bad, and indifferent, because none of us are perfect,
Yes.
but then put ourselves forward to serve our community in whatever way God blesses us to do. And for me, this
Mm,
is a blessing, right? This isn't a right. I don't have a right to be here. In fact, I was saying, I've said to my committee and friends and close family members that it's very interesting how my journey has evolved.
mhm,
In my first 3 terms, I think most people would have looked on and said, yep, he'll be in the house forever.
mm,
I didn't think that I was going to have 3 consecutive terms, wind up getting the amount of votes I got in 2009, and then not be elected for three terms.
mhm,
And so that too is a part of my journey that's extremely important. What's the lesson? The lesson is that everything in its time.
mm,
There are times where the good Lord says to you, you need to be still. Be still, and then what else is going to evolve will come if you continue to be hardworking.
mhm,
That is something that certainly no one can accuse me of, is not working hard and not ensuring that I put the interest of our people at the forefront of every single decision we make. And so that's why it's so important, Sandra, to come on these shows and come on shows like like CMR to ensure that we are explaining in detail and being accountable to the public,
mhm,
not just for
mhm.
people of West Bay North. So yes, that's the piece of Cayman that I had to run in. But I'm not the Minister of Education or the Minister of Finance and Economic Development for West Bay North. It's for the Cayman Islands. And so once you accept this sort of role, one must be accountable and one must be transparent and come on shows and ensure that we have this sort of discourse. I say to people all the time, because I didn't, a lot of times we don't see certain things about ourselves, and and you said it a little earlier. Apparently, I have a million facial expressions.
Mhm.
So um, um, I'm gonna try have a better poker face today, Sandra. But
No, I mean, You know, Minister, at the end of the day, when you talk about the fact that none of us are perfect and that we are all subject to, having moments. But the key for me is what you just said as well, is that authenticity. Like a lot of people say, boy, Sandy, I'd be looking at your face. I'm like, I don't sit here with a poker face. I don't know what it is to have a poker face because I just do not believe in lying. So I guess my face oftentimes might be reflecting, what is in my head. Sometimes it's not directed at the conversation that we're having, though, because some people will interpret that. It might be something, it might be a comment that I'm reading that I'm going, what the heck is this? So it could be any number of things that is happening, but we appreciate you coming on, Minister, and we appreciate your passion for, the position that you're in and for really being of service to the Cayman Islands. And I think you're absolutely right when you say that we're called, a lot of us are called in different ways. So I often have people, if I had $1 for every time somebody says to me, why didn't you run for public office? I'm just like, no. I mean, am I not doing a good job where I am? That's the first question I now want to ask them. They're like, yeah. But, and I said, nope, I'm right where I'm supposed to be. And I think that when you understand the assignment, you understand where you are and what you're supposed to be, and you're all about getting things done. You don't mind the hard work. You do it with passion. Your intent is pure and comes from a good place. Even when you falter, even when you trip and you mess up, I think the people are willing to give you grace because they understand that ultimately it's coming from the best place possible. We do have a caller early this morning already. Good morning, caller. I know. Welcome to the program.
Good morning.
Hello, darling.
Minister Anglin, this is Lucille Ford.
Good morning, ma'am.
I need to get your private number. Please give it to Ball Road. I need to have a talk to you. I have a great-grandson going in West Bay School, John A. Cumber Primary, and I need to talk to you because I want to explain a few things to you. I'm on the debt #1 waiting list to talk to you, please.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. We will send your number on to the minister.
Perfect.
Okay.
All right, my dear. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot.
Miss Lucille sounds very emotional this morning, and I know she's trying her best. She's in the UK, and the difficulty is when you're not the guardian and you live overseas, it's hard to do certain things, without a doubt. So Miss Romelia says that's right, Minister. Richard Parson joining us from Round Rock, Texas. He's a Caymanian that tunes in every morning from beautiful Texas. He says, what an amazing message for us to hear. The first thing this morning, Miss Shirley, says, good morning, Mr. Raleigh. God protection on you, love you from you born. So listen, we are all in this beautiful country together. We've got Caymanians overseas. We're trying to make this the best possible place in the world. And that means that we need to focus on two of the areas which really, somebody says, morning, Sandra, don't take any calls from Johan today. No. Johan is in jail, so he'll be fine. But yes, you guys are so funny. But, education and finance, I can't, if I have a toss up between, obviously in my heart, education is the most important thing, I think. But finance has, almost equal footing in terms of the country's finances. But education is, a game changer. So, Rolston, when you talked about your own personal journey, where you have come from, what you have been able to accomplish in your life, and it was because, you were focused. You put your education first, and you took your family history from someone being, and there's nothing wrong with being a domestic worker. There's nothing wrong with doing that at all, working in hotels as domestic workers and so on. But that is the starting point, right? You shouldn't, say that this is where I want to end for a family. Like every family is going to do the exact same thing. No, you want to elevate yourself. You want to give your children opportunities that you never had. And, although my daughter is only 9, sometimes I have to have these conversations with her, because I think one of the mistakes that we as parents make is when we have gotten to a certain place in life. You mentioned how sometimes we don't want to admit where we've come from. Sometimes that's true. And then sometimes we are just trying to focus on the here and now and moving forward. But those are lessons and important things, conversations that we need to have with our children. So your children now are getting the benefit of things that you did and what your mother and your father also put into you. But they need to understand that's grandma and grandpa. That wasn't that long ago, right? And so the sacrifices that were made to give them opportunities, that is something that you can't not have them appreciate. It's
right.
really, really important for their own understanding, although they will never have to go through a day without wondering where the next meal is coming from. They won't have to go to university and be stressed out about how is my tuition going to get paid and all these other things, or having to work full time and go to school full time, right? Hopefully my daughter will never have to experience those things that I had to experience. But I need to share with her my own personal journey, that it hasn't been easy, and this is where I've come from, and there's sacrifices that have been made, that continue to be made in order for you to have a better life. And so education at the core of everything for me is what creates those types of opportunities. So Mr. Amelia says, we need you right where you are, and CMR fighting the battles of the people. Thank you, Mr. Amelia. I appreciate that so much. All right, let's talk about some of the things that you've been doing as of late. So the first one is you actually went to this World Education World Forum. And, I was saying to Minister Kathy yesterday, because I know that you guys will have, as part of your positions and your jobs, you get the opportunity to travel, you get to go things regionally, internationally. And I think that these are learning opportunities, and there's a lot that you can take away from this. But tell us a little bit about this Education World Forum. I see you and your team were there. What was this all about?
So the Education World Forum brings together over 150 countries being represented for ministers of education and skills, because different countries style the ministries and title ministries very, very differently. And so that's reflective of the fact that the actual plenary sessions and breakout sessions reflected everything from early years right up through tertiary. And so that's why some countries call it Minister of Skills, because then included in that is technical vocation and education services. The Education World Forum represents one of the preeminent education conferences globally. It's held every year in London. As I said, over 150 countries were represented. And then not only are there extremely good sessions that you can exchange ideas and hear about some of the new innovations, some of the new solutions other countries are coming up with, but there's also a huge array of education service providers who actually come to the conference and actually show off their wares. And so it's a unique experience in that sense as well, because you can then interact directly with vendors and companies who might be selling products and services that could be of benefit to our system. So, for example, we took away information from 3 vendors that we're now going to be looking at in terms of the services that they provision, to see if those could be things that we implement here locally, because we believe there'll be a net benefit and have positive impact on teaching and learning, and therefore on our children. In terms of the forum itself, one of the key things that I said to the chief officer, so myself and the chief officer and the deputy chief officer, Brian, who's responsible for compulsory education, talked about, when we sat down to talk about what would the team look like that went, I insisted that at least 2 of our principals had to go, right? So 2 of our Caymanian principals, Miss Giovanna Wright from Sir John A. Campbell Primary School, and Miss Campbell, Miss Lauren Campbell from the Edna Mall Primary School in Northside, were included in the team. And thus far, and I can say both of them said how much of a wonderful experience it was for them as principals to be exposed at that level, to hear those plenary sessions and be a part of that sort of environment, because that only builds their capacity as leaders. I say to people all the time, the Ministry of Education is the biggest ministry for a reason. Firstly, every school is like a mini department, and the principal is the department head, right? You have to look at those environments as such. I mean, we have some schools with between 80 and 95 staff. That's way bigger than most government departments, right? And they have to manage those on a day-to-day basis and ensure there's impactful teaching and learning. But on top of that, you have to be nurse, you have to safeguard, you have to be mentor, you have to be coach, you have to be so many things that a lot of our children, sadly, isn't getting at home. And for me, that forum represents one of the opportunities that we have to expose our educators to and policymakers, because the two have to go hand in hand. Good policy, good decisions around what's going to happen at school level, working collaboratively with our principals and our teaching bodies, is how we truly build a world-class education system. So that bit of it was extremely impactful. The other thing that was also impactful was the evening sessions. So the Secretary of State for Education was the keynote speaker. Well, she was part of the opening ceremonies, but she also hosted an evening for all of us. And in hosting that evening for all of us, that was another incredible networking opportunity in which I got to meet some individuals who we are now going to be in contact with, because the skills and resources that they bring to the table are incredibly important to our system. We are going to be undertaking a curriculum review. We need to look now at our curriculum and decide, are we going to stick with just the English curriculum? Because let me be clear about this, Sandra, because a lot of people believe that if you are an English-based education system, that you have to follow the English education curriculum. That is not true. You could follow the Irish curriculum, all English-based. You could follow the Cambridge curriculum, because Cambridge itself set out a curriculum framework for all of compulsory education as well. So there are options around what your curriculum framework is going to be. And so we are going to be looking to engage one of the preeminent curriculum specialists to assist in that journey. I happen to also meet the minister responsible for education in Bermuda, and they are also going to be looking at their curriculum. And so I said to her, I said, well, wouldn't it be a good opportunity for us to jointly speak to this curriculum expert and his team and see if it's something that we might want to partner in and look at our collective experience in making our decision. The reason that has a real possibility for both our territories is right now they use the Cambridge curriculum, we're using the English curriculum. So it'll be interesting for our team, I believe, to share our experiences and using that curriculum, what has happened with her country and their curriculum as we go down this road of how we're going to take the next steps around what our curriculum framework ought to be and what it ought to look like. Sandra, we can't ever believe that the job is done in education.
Can I just ask you a question here, Minister? Because as you're talking about this, I am thinking in my head, another curriculum change? Is that really our problem in our government schools? What about the behavioral problems? I have, community members messaging me, talking about, why are these children being able to dress the way they do in a government school? And there seems to be little in the way of disciplining. So why do we need curriculum adjustments and change, first of all? And is that really what is the basis of any issues that we are having in government education?
Excellent question. There's a two-part answer. Firstly, England is now going through a curriculum review and is changing their curriculum.
Okay.
So if the very curriculum that we're modeled after is being modernized, then that ought to give us pause to say, if they're changing theirs and see need to change theirs, why would we stick with something that's old, right?
Okay.
The second bit that you're talking about is a key outcome of the school meetings that we've had. Sandra, one of the things, and Kiman, one of the things that has come across from every single visit that we went to is our senior leaders and teachers plea to ensure we have more behavior for learning specialists, school inclusion specialists, school counselors, and education psychologists, all targeting behavior. What has been a loud message is the fact that thankfully it's a small percentage. Let me be clear about it. It's a small percentage of students whose behavior interrupts their capacity to learn. They're not settling down. They're being disruptive. And what is happening at classroom level is that teachers are having to spend disproportionate amount of time to deal with a very small percentage of students. So the public is absolutely right. Absolutely right. We have to address what is happening at school and class level around behavior. It's all good and fine that we raised the minimum amount of compensation to teachers to $5,000 a month. It's all good and fine that we have now a plethora of assistant teachers. Most classrooms have an assistant teacher in it now in our public system. What is missing is the specialists. We have primary schools, for example, whose school counselors are only coming 2.5 days a week. I have principals and senior team members saying to me, we have students that need intervention, but the amount of contact time that they're getting is having no impact on their life and therefore on their teaching and their learning journey. But the level of disruption that's being caused at the school level is so great that it's impacting other children. Because picture yourself as a teacher and assistant teacher. If you have 2 children in your class, for example, that is hugely disruptive, and you're now already having to have differentiated learning. That is, you look at your class of 20 pupils, and in any class, you're going to have a range of attainment. So you can't just teach to one level. You have to have differentiated teaching happening in the class. And typically, take behavior out. What the teacher will do at the school level is, along with the assistant teacher, lesson plan in such a way that you break your students out and meet them at the levels that they're at. So the very most able students are given their lessons and typically will be learning independently. So they be given the lesson for the day, they're clustered, they get on with it. Kids in the middle, the teacher decides, is it myself or the assistant teacher that's dealing with them? Those on the lower end is being then dealt with the other person that's in the classroom. Now, once you interject extremely poor behavior, one of those 2 adults need to deal with them. Something gets left behind, and the something is typically those children in the middle who, with quality teaching and learning, can make real gains through the school day, a school week, a term, and therefore a school year. that is one of the things that is, and that's the real impact of when you hear parents complain about that. But the two have to go hand in hand. So there's going to be a range of policies that I'm going to be coming to the public with what's going to be our strategic plan for the next 3 years, because I couldn't develop that. I've completed all of my visits to all of the schools. The last visit is next Monday to SciFec. Once we've completed all of our visits, we're now going to collate all of that information to now come up with going to caucus and saying, here's the resources that we need to have at school level to ensure that our schools can deliver quality teaching and learning, but also deal with the very, very difficult behavior issues that we're facing at school level. And let's be clear. Those behaviors aren't happening 8 o'clock in the morning when the bell rings. These are behaviors that are coming from home, right? And so in addition to that is why we're going to be rolling out our national PTA to try to ensure that we engage parents more. We get more parents involved with the teaching and learning of their children. Teaching and learning isn't just about schools. It is also about home. Children come from homes, and they spend the vast majority of their time at home. And so a lot of times, those are the things that we have to look at. Now, Sandra, I can also say, and I said this 16 years ago, we didn't make a lot of progress, but I'm going to say it here. And let's ensure, Sandra, because we know what happens. You said, if you said 50, I'm going to use the old Himanian saying, if you say it a million, say it 1,000,001. I am also going to be looking at our school year. What do I mean by that? There's something called summer learning loss, where summer knowledge loss, where when you take children, as we are as human beings, we develop incrementally. You don't go from 5 years old to a PhD.
Right.
There's incremental learning, and you teach at appropriate levels every step of the way.
Yep.
Knowing that, and having seen that this old school system where we have 2 weeks off for Christmas, around 2 weeks off for Easter, a couple of midterm breaks, and this huge 10-week break, summer, is hugely disruptive to teaching and learning.
Yes.
And so we are going to be looking at everything during this term to ensure that we give our children the best possible opportunity at life.
Yeah.
I refuse to make decisions around whether people are going to complain as to whether or not the summer break is long enough for them to plan a vacation. That cannot be the national priority for our education system. The national priority has to be what is going to give our children the best possibility at a successful life.
All right, we've got a couple calls.
So we're going to be looking at everything, Sandra, not only curriculum, but everything is in the mix in terms of how we're going to push the system forward.
All right, let's take a few calls. We got a patient call on the line. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Pleasant good morning, Miss Sandy, Cayman people and all that's watching. Pleasant good morning to the minister as well. I realized that the topic I was calling in on, he touched on some of it, but I also want to highlight some stuff. Minister, I believe you came. I think I prayed for you, I would say. I don't know about any other parents, but I know I prayed for someone like you to come on and take on the job, because the job needed to be taken on and it wasn't being taken on. I am a parent, sadly to say. I had to relocate my child as well, based on the school system. What I want to highlight to the minister is you have some of us as parents that are fully aware. I have a child that was born premature. So development-wise, he wasn't developing properly, right? So his brain is delayed, all this other stuff. The school didn't tell me this. I told the school this. I went to every meeting. I was present. Even if he gave trouble in classrooms, I gave teachers permission to call me so that they can get that support. So, minister, we have a small amount of troublesome children. I agree. we should be able to have a school for them. Mixing them in a population with other children is the disruption within itself. I am a mother to say, I will not deny that my child is disruptive. Is it that he comes from a disruptive home? No, sir. No, sir. He has issues. Me alone as a parent and a single parent at the time couldn't do it by myself. And I depended on the school's help. Unfortunately, Minister, it was not there. And it is the school's job to help me in those positions, in the position that I was in with him. And the help wasn't given. But, you know, I made my own personal decision. I withdrew him and I took him over to England, where we get the facilities and the attentions that they need. I am hoping, Minister, with you being in the position now, we're going to get those same type of schools and attention we need for them. Some parents deny it. So we need assessors, Minister, medical professional assessors to assess our children. It is not that they're just bad. Something is happening mentally. I have to be honest about that. And I myself went through a system like that. I have brothers and sisters that went through a system of that. It wasn't nothing but we bad and we rude. We don't want to identify ADHD and this, that, and, you know, in the Caribbean region where we is in Cayman, it's sad, but it's true. It do not want to be recognized. The only thing people are telling you, oh, he mama was crackhead, oh, he daddy with this. We know those things, but something else has to be there. Something else medically has to be wrong with the child. So we need that type of assessment, Minister. There's another thing I'm going to ask for. The promotion of our Caymanian teachers. Please, the promotion of our Caymanian teachers, sir. It is necessary. When I was going to school and Caymanian teachers were in there, even when we were given trouble, we had to think twice because the connection was strong. It was going to make it to home. So parents know if mama didn't do nothing, auntie I do something, cousin I do something. There's a stance. But we need our Caymanian culture back into our schools. I need to see us back into the quadrille, Minister. You remember years ago, Bordentown, East End, Georgetown Primary, we competed. We went to Hartwell Theatre. We paid money. We were willing to pay money just to go see schools compete. Who can quadrille the best? Where is it? We need it back, sir. It is a part of our culture. And I know you're the best person for the job, so I'm throwing it on your shoulders. And again, thank you. Thanks to us as a people for putting you in there. And I done already see in my dreams that this will be a dream come true. It's just unfortunate that I couldn't wait for when you were elected, that these changes would have come in and I could have been a more happier parent in my own country and feeling that my child would have made headways and not just end up as another statistic. I had to act fast because he was growing and he wasn't making any changes because the facilities and the system was not there. Does that make my country a bad country? No, it doesn't. It makes my country wake up. And I can see that the minister knows the wake up has come. It has come. Thank you so much, Miss Sandy. Thank you so much, Minister. You all have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. We did have another caller who was also trying to reach us, so please do give us a call back. Minister, any thoughts? You know, and
she's
I'm
right. No.
Yeah.
Listen, let me.
I can't argue with anything she said.
Well, no, let me be very, very, very clear. Okay, when I say home, and I want to make sure that we parse this out properly. Home can be negative around what children experience at home. The caller is 110% right. Why did I just mention that we need more behavior specialists, more school inclusion specialists, more counselors, more education psychologists? We are behind on assessments. That's unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable for a country with the budget that we have and the resources that we have financially. We have to be more targeted and impactful on our children's lives. And one of the ways to do it is just what the caller just said. Now, let me be clear on another point. And this is a point where I think sometimes it helps to not be an educator and be Minister of Education. I don't get lost in the theory. I listen clearly and carefully to the theory. I listen carefully and we do our research around what some of the best systems do and see how we can accommodate it in Cayman and make sure that it works for our culture and our context.
Mm-hmm.
And let me make sure I'm clear about that, because people have heard me talk about other systems. There are other systems that are great, but you don't just grab what they do and take it off a shelf and believe you plunk it on our shelf and it's going to work. You have to Caymanianize and make sure it's relevant to what we're doing. The caller is absolutely right. We have to do a better job at assessments early. That's why the early years are so important. These assessments must be happening from the time a child is born.
Mm-hmm.
Any child that's at risk is usually, a lot of times, at risk from birth. So if we know we have a premature child, if we see there's developmental delays and we don't act, that parent is 100% right. It will show up. It'll show up in behavior. It'll show up in attainment. It'll show up in life chances. And and as we adults know how quickly it's, snap of a finger, you're primary one, and boom, 13 years later, you're
I know.
Education.
Oh, gosh, goes by so fast.
So yes, she is 100% right. Now let me get to the point that I was making around the theory of education versus the practical application of managing schools and managing classrooms.
All right. Before we do that, can we just grab another caller? I know they've been waiting for a few minutes now. Caller, my apologies. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning, honey child. How are you?
Good morning, Mr. Amelia. How are you?
Good morning, Minister.
Good morning.
I put a kaboom, kaboom, kaboom for Minister and that caller. Please and thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you, Minister, that a child learns what they are taught, what they see at home, and they tend to act out what they learn at home, in public, in schools. And our parents need to be more mindful of the activities that they perform before their children, whether it's alcohol, drugs, or fighting. Their children is going to come up under that umbrella. So I said that to say that the responsibility is not 100% the teacher's responsibility. No. It is the parent. The parent is the one who needs to nurture and bring their children up the best they can, and not with the habits that they have. Because let me give you an example. I've never seen my mom drink alcohol or sit down and smoke drugs or anything. Or my dad used to do the weed, but boy, I mean, you have mother and father nowadays sitting down and don't give a hoot, drinking, cursing, smoking, and doing drugs in front of their kids. Look at how many kids that we have that before they enter into the school gate that stop along the way and smoke drugs before they come to school. How did that start about? They had to see someone doing it. And then when you try to assist or to speak to them about it, or teacher, they do something wrong and teacher pull them up, the parents are right there to start to curse out the teachers or fight the teachers. That is totally wrong. That is 100% wrong. And parents in the Cayman Islands need to do better nowadays when they come in on these sort of things. When I was going to school, our uniform was awesome, right length. I went down to school a few weeks ago. The uniforms, if they bend down to pick up something, their buttocks and everything they have is showing. Nose ring in their ears. How in the world a parent allow their children to come to school with nose ring in their ear and these short ups, because which is the parents' fault, because it's the parents that is purchasing these uniforms or shortening these uniforms, whether they're shortening them or they're allowing the children to shorten them themselves. It shouldn't be, but it should be a quality and class of presentation coming into our schools. When you enter our school ground, you're supposed to reflect the morals of that school. And I'm starting to see the short up skirts that kids are going to school in, girls are going to school in today. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. So things such as needs to be looked into. I mean, the morals and standards of the school needs to be kept. And if a parent have a problem with it, well, fine, put your child in a private school. But our government school standard needs to stand. And that's not only in high school, that's all throughout every government school, that our standards, we should never fail away or lose our standards and morals that we were taught and brought up with as Caymanians in our school. It says that we will know better, do better.
Yes.
So, Minister, I would really, really like you to put that on your agenda to address the modesty of the way the kids are coming to school. Because, I mean, they need to take pride in themselves, and it's sad if the parents do take pride in their children. That is, I mean, what it's showing, and that's very sad. That is very sad. Everybody wants to see their children achieve something in life, and you have to walk a certain path if you are interested in learning. And again, it starts from the parents.
Okay, leave us there. We do have another caller who's attempting to get in as well. Thank you so much. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program. Hello.
Hey, good morning,
Hi.
Sunday.
Morning, dear.
Am I on?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good morning to our lovely minister. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
I know you're trying your best, and I know you will do a stellar job. Just keep up the good work, sir, and continue to trust in God, because as long as you have him on your side, no man can come against you. I have a question this morning. I'm going to try to be as brief as possible. I have a niece that have a young man. He born with brain damage. And actually, it wasn't her fault. Her placenta separated from her womb or something in her office. Anyway, we almost lost both of them.
Oh, wow.
This young man is now 30, I think it's 33 or 34 years old. She have spoken for a very long time. She have been instrumental in the special needs schools and groups and everything that she could assist in. But she have one problem. There have never been like what the lady before, Miss Amelia, said. There's never been nothing or advantage for her son. He is now 33 years old. She receives no help at all for this young man. The father is here on the island. The father have a business. The father do not assist in any way with this young man. Everything is on her.
Wow.
I need the minister this morning because she have gotten tired now that she decide I am going to do whatever I can do on my own. She have been tired, but I am still here as a mouthpiece for her. And it honestly, it breaks my heart to see what she goes through on her own. Raising this young man that it wasn't her fault or anything. It was a medical condition and no at all from father or from the government. He is now 33 years old. I'm 36. I'm getting old now too. I forget. But I think she have went to different authorities, the government places seeking help. But if you don't tell them, I ain't gonna say it. We on radio this morning. If some of stuff that they ask for, honestly, she gets fed up with us giving them information and nothing, no help at all. And this, I feel it for her because she don't have much of a life. Sure. And she loves him dearly. She will go beyond to take care of this young man. So I do not know. The minister can tell me if I don't know whether is obligated to assist her with something or she have to do it on her own. The father is here. The father have a business and the father don't help. She is tired of going to the courts and the lawyers not helping her, just taking what she don't have, and she cannot do it any longer.
Yes.
So I need.
And the father's working. Let me just understand. He is working.
Yes, the father have a business as far as I know. The father is running a business and do not help her with $1. Don't help her with nothing. Don't even take the child to give her a little break. Nothing. It's a good thing that the child is. Anyway, I need the minister to guide me or help me because I'm the only other mouth for her because I'm not to speak up.
Yeah.
And I tell her, I say, you should, no matter what work you have or what work she doing, she should have form of help. Because of his condition, she has to get extra things for him.
Wow. Thank you so much, caller. We really appreciate the comments this morning. Such a difficult conversation and call to hear, Rolston.
So, Sandra, you have the number for that person, right?
Yes.
Related this call.
Yes.
So I'll need you to send that to me. So Sandra, this hits on another issue. Let me deal with the first issue that was raised by 2 callers ago in regards to persons who have special or additional education needs, and those come from a place of what presents in a classroom as disruptive behavior. But one of the things that our teachers have been very, very clear about is the fact that whilst they appreciate the inclusion policy that we have, and what I've said to the team is, I get it. I get that you want children to be with their peers because that is the best environment for them to be in terms of their life journey, right? A lot of times it's easy to say, should we build a special school? And should we then have a special school that children who have challenging behaviors attend? There is, in my mind, there is a fine line between persons who are at that level and whether or not you keep badgering your head against the wall and saying, for the sake of inclusion, they have to be included in mainstream. We've had an interesting history in that at one point we had something called the Alternative Education Center. Now, Sandra, there used to be a statistic, or there is a statistic where it's, I think it was 90%, close to 100% of persons who went through that facility either were dead or in jail by the time they were in their early 20s.
Wow.
Now, that statistic, though, let's be careful with statistics. It's like any country. If you take any child who is the most disruptive, who's already getting arrested and in trouble from the time they're 10, 11 years old, well, it's not going to be a surprise that by the time they're in their 20s, that's where they would be. So whilst that statistic may have been true, that statistic has to be taken in context. The other thing that we had to be truthful about is when that center was started, systematically, there were, as I understood it at the time, a number of persons who were in schools that weren't necessarily the strongest performing teachers who were placed at that school or at that center. And so you had the coming together of two things. Persons who weren't necessarily behavior specialists and school exclusion specialists. You didn't have the relevant amount of counseling and therapeutic services. And then you had persons who already were deeply antisocial in terms of their behavior. What has been presented to me is a very, very, very clear case that we have to do something very different with children who have already gotten to that level of disruption in their lives. When our high school teachers and senior management teams look me in the eye and say, Minister, tell me what you are going to do differently when we have to accommodate pupils on our campus who have already been arrested multiple times. Let me repeat that. When my high school teachers and senior management teams say to me, Minister, what are you and the team going to do differently to assist us at school level when we are being forced to accommodate pupils who have already been arrested by the police multiple times? So I get the whole issue around inclusion, and I get why it's so important. But I also get the fact that if we continue to do what we've been doing for the last decade, the outcome is not going to change. And one of the key points in this, Sandra, one of the key points in terms of the policy consideration that I have to make is when professionals at our classroom level say to me, Minister, yes, alternative education center failed, but let's really be truthful about the history of it. And secondly, are you going under your watch to continue, for the sake of inclusion, to have persons whose criminality is so steeped at such an early age that they're now influencing others on school campuses? And so what they're reporting to me is that not only are they not equipped to manage that level of disruption and behavior at school level, but those very individuals are now influencing 5, 10 other children who ordinarily wouldn't act out or behave that way. Let's be very clear. A lot of children who have reached this point in their lives, for whatever reason, whether it was a developmental delay, and now this has led to the behaviors, whether it's what they're seeing at home and that's led to the behaviors. Let's be clear. I'm not casting judgment on how the child has gotten to that point, but the child has gotten to that point. When you leave them on a school campus, whether you can manage them or not, there is also the risk of contagion. What other disruptions are they going to cause with other children who are not as strong-minded? Because a lot of children who wind up this way become leaders. Let's be clear. A lot of them become leaders. I put that in quotes. So they become very strong-willed. They're showing up. They're the ones that are saying to other children, hey, to one of the other callers' point, do you want weed? I can find you weed. All of a sudden, 5, 10 other children who might have been able to be rescued and be able to be managed at school level and have their life chances improved, wind up now being negatively influenced, and they then are added to that list of disruptors. So that's extremely important, Sandra, that when these sorts of policy decisions are being made, we have to look at the entire picture, because the picture isn't just about that one individual child. It is also about what is their overall impact on all children, not just then in their classroom. What's happening at break time? What's happening at lunchtime? Who else is being led down a path that they ordinarily might not be if we were to take a slightly different approach to our model? And so I am certainly, as I sit here and as I complete the school tours, those are the sorts of things that's running through my head in terms of what myself and the leadership team and the ministry need to contemplate and make decisions around. Now, let me cover the last caller. Her call is very timely. Her call is very timely. It is an area that we're looking at on a two-pronged approach. Firstly, we're looking at what we're going to do differently with the Sunrise Adult Training Center so that that center can accommodate people for up to 5 days a week. Because right now, most persons can only attend for 2 days a week. And so take her point. Her point is, firstly, the first line of assistance is ensuring that we have the level of service that our families deserve. And she's not the only one. When I get other persons in our community coming to me and saying, I can only work part-time because I have to be at home because I have a child now that's exited the school system, but can't take care of themselves at home. So there's that level of disruption. There is persons who then say, I just need a break.
Right.
And that break could be a drop off at Sunrise Adult Training Center and know that they're in a safe, secure environment and pick them up after work. The next point that has to be addressed, and this is something that myself and the Minister of Social Development have already started to have discussions around, is creating a category of persons who have special and additional education needs, who exit the school system but can't hold down a job. They just either physically or mentally can't. And how do we support those families? Because right now, Sandra, what we're doing is we're sending in them to the Department of Financial Assistance and standing in line with everyone else. When they should be treated very differently because they were born that way, right? If a person is born either with a physical or mental issue that prevents them from being able to enjoy a normal life, that is, can show up and do a normal 9 to 5 job, how are we as society treating them? I do not believe it's good policy that they get put in the same line. They get put through the same ringer, and that's what the lady is talking about. And what I can tell her is that those discussions have started, and I certainly am hoping that in the near future, we as a government are going to be able to come out and be able to present a distinct policy for persons in that category because they deserve. If you were born, if let's just use the absolute most severe scenario, someone is confined to a wheelchair, right, and that's their life, and they physically, mentally just cannot work. Is it good enough that we don't have a system, given the fact that we have tens of millions of dollars every year going out in Siemens benefits, in DFA benefits, that those families are not given a special line? We give them a special spot in the parking lot. We give them a blue sticker. So what else are we going to do? Just giving a spot in this parking lot because you need to be closer to the door. Well, okay, that's great. But what else are we doing? And so that is, so I can say to the caller that is something that we are looking at to ensure that we rectify. We can't kick that can down the road any longer, Sandra. Those families are crying out. They need help. They need support. And as I said, it's not just about the financial piece, but it's also about the daycare piece that we take care of And then that then gives parents just the capacity to breed, the capacity to just go out and actually make a living.
Right.
I have a mother right now in West Bay. That's the choice she makes every day. Go to work, take care of her son.
Wow.
You know, no parent should have to make that sort of choice, Sandra. And those are real issues. And this isn't about, to that caller's point, this isn't about poor choices. This is how her son was born. And sons and daughters are born that way.
Yeah.
We need to do a better job. Much better job. So
it was a tough conversation, tough phone call to hear because, we never know, Caymanians and I guess Caribbean people have a saying, but for the grace of God, right? And I found myself, even when I was pregnant with my daughter, for right up until she was born, we weren't really sure why in vitro she was growing so tiny. And of course, this was like the whole Zika time. So we were afraid about that. Did you get bitten by mosquito when you went to Miami? I mean, it was just crazy. And I remember having a conversation with my husband before she was born about what was the plan if she was born with any special needs, because both of us recognize that Cayman isn't, we're lagging in a lot of ways, and this is one area. And so we were looking at other options, like, do we move to the States? Do we, of course, he's from Jamaica. So he's like, do we look at options in Jamaica in terms of moving our entire lives? Because we knew the challenges here that we would face, especially resource-wise, that sometimes are just unsurmountable when you have a special needs child. And so we're grateful that we didn't have to go down that path, but my heart really bleeds for the parents that do. I do have another question for you, though. When the one, I think that was Mr. Milia, was mentioning about removing children and putting them in, somebody was asking about like the Marine Institute and these different places. Can I ask you, you talk about this bleeding over with behavioral issues. Does it not work in the inverse in some instances as well? And I'm just taking this from my own personal experience. I wasn't really doing behavioral issues because my aunt kept me in check with that belt, honey jail. But academically, I was kind of struggling. And then I was put into classes with higher achievers. And for some reason that triggered and motivated me to, oh my God, I want to be like them. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's getting these high marks. Like, I got to keep up.
So Sandra, you're 100% right. That is why inclusion globally is accepted as the best policy, right? So don't get me wrong. That is the policy we have in Cayman. That is the policy we're going to continue. What I'm talking about and what parents and teachers are talking about is when a child goes beyond that threshold. And you're quite right. If you put a lot of children with all the same behaviors and don't put the services around them, then they themselves could become worse. That is why AEC failed. It failed because we didn't put the resources behind it to change lives. That is why during Finance Committee and another conversation that I've been having with the minister responsible for social development is around keys. And we have to be very, very honest with ourselves. It's failing. He knows it. We know it. It came out in Finance Committee. And that is why the questioning in Finance Committee was so intense around that institution and how it's managed or not managed.
And this is CAYS Foundation.
Right. Because that is the institution you're talking about that we currently send children who are at that level, right? And so what I believe is we need to have a complete rethink of the model and ensure that it is a secure and have the teaching and learning along with the behavior modification and therapeutic services to change lives. If we're not going to do that, then we might as well just say, you know what? Do what some other countries do. Kick them out of school, expel them, and they just wind up in a life of crime. Like to me, this halfway house of wasting money and not having an impact for what? And so the minister and I have committed that we're going to be getting our teams together to look at the overall model so that we can make the best possible decision to have a positive impact on our children's lives.
Because we've been reporting.
To my mind, you have to have exhausted rigorously every intervention you can before you consider that option, because you do want every child going through it, their cohort of learners. You do want to ensure that those children do have that opportunity, because that opportunity will ensure that lives get changed as well. Because you're right. Every day in our school, we have someone who is looking on and seeing their peers do better and then getting motivated to do better themselves. So that whole environment and that ethos is going to be underpinning our system still. All I'm saying is we need to be honest about those who are at a certain level and ensure that the reverse doesn't happen. That's all I'm saying. On that point. But Sandra, I know we have another important topic to cover, which is our quarter one report.
Yes.
Quarter one results.
Can we just read a few more comments around education? I mean, this just shows, and we do have one caller, so we'll take one more call in this topic. But yes, we do want to talk about finance as well, and I'm cognizant of the time. So this parent had the following to say. They said the school are slacking. I've advocated for my son from primary school that something was wrong. They tested him and found that he was dyslexic. I said something else is off. He has failed right through. I've begged and begged for him. It was when he graduated John A. Cumber Primary School that the Senko representatives told me that he was borderline spectrum of autism. Now he is in John Gray in the LSC class, which is a class for kids with learning disabilities. However, it is not helping him with his condition. He needs to be placed in a private school for that one-on-one intervention, only for a teacher to say basically the report they would have to do to present to education department is too much work or consists of a lot of reports. I'm like, hello, I'm not going to be here forever. So I need to get him independent enough to fend for himself. Sometimes it's a school who doesn't do their part, because here's a parent acknowledging something is wrong and he has failed from primary school straight to high school, and they continue to push him up another year. This parent goes on to say, my son is seeing a doctor through the Alex Panton Foundation at HSA, and even him said he will do an intensive report to push for him to go to private school because his condition is critical. He's 10 and working at a year 2 level. I will forever thank Minister Rolston, because I reached out to him through yourself for them to open more classes, and they claimed it was full at the time and they didn't have resources. He made sure and opened them. So, there is that. I don't know what private school though, because most of these private schools are focused on academic excellence and that's all they care about. So unfortunately.
She would be talking about Hope Academy.
Okay.
She'd
Right.
be referring to Hope. So Sandra, the author of the letter is absolutely right. Absolutely right. And it comes down to the fact that I am going to be advocating very strongly within our caucus around provisioning for all of our children. She is 100% right. We do not have believe it or not, I mean, this is going to be another shocker. Right now, we don't have adequate space at John Gray to accommodate all of the needs of the range of issues that teaching body is facing. That teaching body is, in my opinion, doing great work under the leadership of Principal Forbes with the hand that have been dealt them. There's a facilities issue. There's a huge resources issue that only government can fix. And it will take additional resources. It will take additional professional resources at school level. So the author of that letter is 100% accurate. Let me just say this. A lot of the frustrations that parents are seeing isn't necessarily the principals, Senkos, or teachers' fault. It is around the fact that I laid off, Sandra, and let me repeat it again. We have a huge gap in the level of specialists that our 5,800 children in our public system require. We are simply undermanned when it comes to school counselors, education psychologists, Senkos, school inclusion specialists, behavior for learning specialists, and we do need to also double down on our efforts to support our teachers and their teaching practice as well. Behavior for learning requires very specific strategies. Remember now, so let me take a step back. What a lot of parents and a lot of us on the outside don't appreciate. A person goes to university, they then have a practicum element, and they get an education degree and they become a qualified teacher. What is not provisioned is a lot of the specialty type knowledge and a lot of the specialty type teaching and learning strategies to deal with a much wider range of children that a teacher may see, right? So the standard education degree isn't going to make a person a behavior for learning specialist. It's going to allow them to become a teacher. So it's sort of like, Sandra, picture a person who goes to law school. When you go to law school, you don't become an IP specialist.
Right.
You don't become someone who's a murder case specialist. You don't become a person who is a funds specialist. Equally, when I went to school and became an accountant, I'm not a forensic accountant, for example. That's a specialty within the profession.
Yes.
So same thing. We have a lot of teachers who are trying their very, very best. And a lot of times, from a parent standpoint, you're looking on and thinking, well, you're a teacher. You can get on with it, and not recognizing that the school doesn't a lot of times have the adequacy of resources. And so that is something that we have to come to grips with. And I'm being very open and truthful here. And I'm going to, the same thing is going to happen when I present our caucus, and the parliament is going to be getting a statement in September, because by then we would have done all of our visits and have the entire report. I did this the last time. I'm going to be doing it this time. There's nothing being pushed under in the rug under Rolston, Malachi, Anglin. The country is going to know where we are and why we're facing the challenges we have. I can say that 16 years ago, that's why a lot of people remember my time as minister, is because we then acted and tried to ensure that we improved the lot of every child in our system, not just the most able. The most able in our system, Sandra, are doing extremely well. This is why, Sandra, when you hear me get on the show and I say to people, there is no money that's going to be spent on bringing back A-levels. I did A-levels. There are 2 A-level colleges in this country who are doing a fantastic job, and there's about to become a 3rd. They are already in the top 10%. We need to be addressing early years and all of the provisioning for the children who are either special and additional education needs, and that massive group of students who are at the center, who right now are being underserved in our system and not being able to have their life chances lifted. We have tons of children in this country that are almost on the cusp of getting 5 level 2 passes, including math and English. But we systematically fail them because we're not resourcing our schools adequately to deal with the behavior and learning challenges that we have, so that teachers can then focus on that big bulk in the middle and improve their life chances. And so that's why it's not about ability. And it's not, a lot of times, in my opinion, about the teaching and learning quality. It is about us not addressing the big risks. And the big risk that we have in our public system is not doing a good enough job at private centers, so that early years truly becomes, again, our main focus. But then what? What we then do with all of our children then that have those special and additional education needs that show up as disruptive behavior. Because you picture a child, take the email that you just message you just read. You imagine a child being in classroom that is on the spectrum, on the ASD spectrum, and dyslexic. You think that a lot of times that child isn't going to then act out in class? They're going to act out in class a lot because they are frustrated. That is why we need to have the additional specialists across our system to support our principals, support our teaching bodies, and really improve the life chances of all of our children.
All right, we've got one final call, and then we're going to move on to finance and discuss that as well. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Sandra. Good morning, Rolston.
Morning.
Good morning.
From 2005, this topic has been going on back and forth about special needs. I know because I was there. And I will say this. You were the minister that addressed a lot of things, even though there was so much that was not addressed. But now you have a lot of staff members, and that back then you had a lot of Caymanian staff members that cared, that worked. We knew the problem, addressed the problems. You had goals and everything. And of course, you ended up coming up, and then you had a minister that came in and just threw everything in a monkey wrench and destroyed everything. And now we're back still talking about special needs. You cannot be a minister for 4.5 years. You visit and have 1 or 2 staff meetings, and then your teachers tell you, oh, we're still having this problem. We're already gone a year from elections. And we only got, 3 in another, 3 years and 6 months or whatever to go. The problem is now you are also the finance minister. And therefore, there are much more that you can do now, not just to allocate funds, but you are also in charge of scholarships. Let's make sure that the children that you're sending off for education are coming home with those some of those having special needs skills. So that you can also place some of them. Because I can tell you right now, 80% of the teachers you have in your schools, and you know what I'm saying because you know I was there, are not from here, and they're from the country just down the road, which have gone through some of everything we talked about, ADHD, bipolar. Many of those teachers also have where they have been raped. They are also, but they're adults now, and they bring all of that drama here and it's put on top of our children. So when you're putting also a lot of these people in our schools, we need to also have them under the spectrum because they are also a problem. But you knew from way back then, and I do believe that you would have made the greatest minister if we had you in a consistent time and no changes. But Rolston, like I've said before, going into the school and having 1 meeting or 2 meetings out of the year is not going to change. You heard that young woman told you that we need Caymanian people. You were the only minister, and I say it today with no regard, no disrespect, and I don't care if anybody do like me or don't like me. You were the only minister that had 80% of your indigenous people there that cared about you, cared about what you were doing, and you were doing a great job. I don't see that now. And I haven't seen many changes to make sure that that is going to come back. And I know what you're going to say, and I know what people are going to say, well, oh, you're this, whatever. But the bottom line is our people are the ones that are going to be left behind. And pretty much so if it's not us going to be left behind, then we're all going to be killed out, and then it's going to be a country that belongs to somebody else. But I remind you, you also have your children. I have my nieces. I have my nephews. And Sandra has her kids, and many others have theirs. And we want to make sure that Cayman we still have a say, and Cayman still belongs to us. So I heard you with this speech before. We heard you with this speech before. And now you have a greater opportunity to make sure what you say, you actually do. Because now you are the finance minister. But this story has gone back from 2005 and way back. I have had the opportunity of going into the schools and praying with several pastors when they asked me to come and talk to the children. And I've gone through and I've asked some of these kids in a classroom, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a gangster. I want to smoke weed and lie back and just relax. My father and mother got enough money for me. That's how they talk. And if a minister cannot take time to go through these schools himself, visit and see what's happening in the schools, and at least have one school or two schools that are saying they're on top and with pilot programs put in place to address these kids that are talking like this, we're in deep trouble. Because everything cannot be done sitting down in the glass house every Tuesday morning. It also takes people on the ground that are going to make a difference. Thank you all and have a great day.
Thank you very much, caller. Appreciate it.
Listen, the points made by the caller are accurate, and I can tell you she's 100% right. And let me make sure that I'm clear about a couple of things, right? Firstly, she's right. I do lament the fact that a lot of what I've come back to the system where we had started productive policy interventions were dropped. That's all I can say. They were not continued. They were not continued. Sandra, when I said the other day we can have a learning passport for children, I got numerous calls. Wow, great idea. I mean, this was something that was talked about 16 years ago when I took over as minister. And it was one of the few things that we hadn't actually got to action before I demitted office. Not continued. This whole talk about how we structure the school year, not continued. Right? So she's right. She's right. When you become minister responsible for this subject area and you are not willing to engage, because listen, when you go into that room and you're sitting in front of eight professionals who are looking at you and saying, we could give you the problems. We could tell you what good that's happening, but we also could tell you the challenges. A lot of people don't want to face that music because they're not brave enough to then say, I am going to go to the public and tell the public truthfully what's happening in our system and what I am willing to stand up and do about it. The other thing that was meant that she mentioned that is so true, and I want to make clear about my average work week, is that when I talk about my visit, those are the sit-down meetings where it's organized, where you have I can't do that every single week, right? But I make sure that I still visit schools for other visits. So I'm there, and she knows, and everybody knows one thing about me. I'm going to show up because you have to have that connectivity. She's 100% right. You can't be in this government administration building and believe you can have this positive impact in schools without putting in the real hard work around reform. And so our reform agenda that we're going to roll out is going to be significant. It's going to take money. But we either are going to prioritize our children's future or not. It's that simple. And so I can say that I certainly am going to be advocating for how we move our system forward. And that is the most important thing. Sandra, I'm going to end this part. My last comment is this. You made mention that two very important ministries, and that is 100% right. However, education is the great social equalizer. That is why I'm sitting here. I'm sitting here to put in this hard work because of taking the advantage of the opportunity, having parents who said to me, look, we had to leave school, mother when she was 12, daddy when he was 12, to go be a domestic help in the And so it's now about how we get this next generation of Caymanians to take advantage of all the wonderful opportunities that this country has to offer. I want to make sure that I'm clear on one point though, because I think sometimes people do mix this point up. I wish I had the singular authority to reallocate to education the amount of resources I would like to singly. So whilst I have constitutional responsibility as Minister of Finance, I still have a caucus that I have to answer to, and the caucus still ultimately decides the budget. I can advocate for my ministry just as other ministers do, but I don't singly have that authority under our current public management and finance law, right? So I just want to make that clear, because people may be left to think, well, okay, why are you saying you need more money for education? Aren't you Minister of Finance? Just give yourself the money. I can't just give myself the money. I have a caucus that I have to answer to, and it's the government that then agrees. What I can say is, during these visits, I was accompanied by the two parliamentary secretaries, Mrs. Julia Hunter and Ms. Heather Borden. And I wanted them involved in those meetings for two reasons. Firstly, they're parliamentary secretaries for two separate areas in education, so it's only right for them to be there. But secondly, I wanted them to hear firsthand, so that it was just my voice going back to caucus with what the issues are that we're facing at school level in Cayman. And so, as I said, that's where we've reached. And so we're going to be coming out in the next couple of months with what will be the more holistic reform agenda. We have a number of policy positions that need to be put forward, but we do need to then take a step back and say, okay, how does this all come together, and what does this package look like?
Do you have a hard stop at 9:30 today?
Oh, that's in 5 minutes. No.
Yes. Okay. All right. Let's take this call, and then we're going to switch gears. I see quite a few callers actually trying to call in. So let's take two more calls, and then we're going to switch gears to finance. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Good morning.
Morning.
Yes. Hi, Sandra. Good morning to the minister.
Good morning, sir.
I'm going to try to approach a very controversial topic on top of what you have here, and they're both related, intertwined. So I'll get right into it. It is my position, and I think the general globe tends to feel that way, because there is a groundswell now, where in the past, in the early 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, whatever, there seems to be some groundswell of we have to deal everything with kid gloves and mittens, and we can't hurt feelings, and we talk, we're not totalitarian, and this, that, and the other. And as such, effectively what we did was we chained the government's hands behind their backs, dropped them in a deep pool with a 20-pound weight and said swim. And our society has continued to deteriorate. We have to be cognizant of people's, feelings, their emotions, their well-being, and all of this other stuff. But then there's life's realities. So when I break it down to the simple things in life, what happened to our youth when they misbehaved back in the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s? They went to sea. Not all of them went to sea by necessity. Everybody, for the most part, a lot of people went there because some did farming and what have you. But from all the tales that I was told from my grandparents through to my aunts, my uncles, and friends of family, senior citizens, they all said the same thing. Yeah, you see that young man, you see that gentleman over there? He was a rebel back in his day. So we had to send him to sea. My father went to sea at 16 is what I was told. And he was told that he was a rebel. And so, and why I'm bringing that point simply up is when you go to sea, it becomes pretty much military regimented in that you mess around, you die, right? The sea is no place for fooling around. You play on shore, you're straight on the boat. You have a regiment, you wake up at a certain time, you have your watch, you have your shift, whatever you have, you cook, you make your bed, you clean your plate, blah, blah, blah. That instills discipline in a lot of these people. And so I want to now fast forward that to the modern times and in here. And what I think needs to happen, and I think that we have, since we were forced to implement it, and since we have it here, and I'm not saying it's always a bad thing. I know that when I was adolescent and a bit of a rebel, coming from a broken home, parents, my father did what he could, my mother did what they could, my aunts and uncles did what they could. But we all have a bit of a streak in us, no matter what level, and we all get into trouble at varying degrees. Fortunately for me, I didn't get into that bad of a thing. But I will say that I'll credit this, Mr. Macmillan, Mr. Noel Johnson, and these folks from the Boys Brigade. I don't think that if I was not a participant in that organization, that I would necessarily have turned out as square as somebody would kind of terminology, put a terminology to it, and law abiding. I could have probably just gotten into a lot more mischief. But because I was busy doing my Duke Edinburgh Award program, schemes, hiking, learning different things, doing marching drills, and having a uniform, being taught and these sounds like very simple, and the youth would probably laugh at it, but these sounds like very simple things. But those are the things that instill discipline and self-respect, and it develops leadership. It brings out there's some people who will always rise to the top or higher than the others, but there's respect, mutual respect, leadership, etc., etc. So with the cadet corps that's in place here, and this comes back to what I was saying about taking off the kid gloves, we need to put a legislation in place where it allows the government to then say to the courts, this child is a problem child, as you can tell from the court records, or you can tell from the education record. It is complete disturbance to the class, which therefore is bringing down the class. And I'm saying you create a barracks. And when I say a barracks, I mean literally a military style barracks like you see anywhere deployed in the world. And that's simply, and I'm happy to provide the options and alternatives on that side of it, because development and stuff like that is my thing. And this is not about looking, I'm saying I can show you the examples. And you put them in there where they have to wake up every morning, 5 a.m., whatever. But let me stand, get one big piece of government property there, make them farm, make them make their place, and they still have classes there. Get them to do, work on the military, on the regiment vehicles and servicing them. So you find which individual excels and where, because you still have to use the computer, you still have to service a vehicle, you still have to plant stuff. So you learn all these different things. And in the interim, what's being instilled is that the parents cannot step in, or the so-called parents cannot step in and go, oh, you can't touch my child, you can't do it. If you're not prepared to take care and responsibility of your child, and then let's be clear, there's some kids who, no matter how well-intentioned and how good the parent is, they just hell-bent on revolting, then you put them in these programs, and if you can't go from there, at least you did something to try. But right now, to the minister's point, we can't continue doing what we're doing here and expecting any difference. But I would take it a step further by saying we have to become what today's society would call draconian, which 40 years ago, 50, 60 years ago, was considered normal. We need to get back to our kids are very, very adaptable to their environment. And when they realize they no longer have the elasticity and play the system against the adults, then they'll have to conform, and they'll learn to conform, and then they'll be the better for it. But to pretend that these kids can move around, which is what we have going on right now, summer break coming up, and we already got kids breaking in, jumping in people's trespassing people's property and playing in the pools, all of this stuff. All that's going to ramp up. Watch the news, Sandra. You're the one who reported. Watch your news uptick in the next over the summer months. So with that, and that was a very large topic and bits of information that I try to condense in the smallest possible nutshell, but I'm happy to expound on it. And I thought I'd just throw it out there, because at the end of the day, we're at a point now where we're throwing spaghetti at a wall and see what sticks, because what's happening now still ain't working. Have a great day.
Thank you so much, Carl. I appreciate it. Wow, Minister, I feel like you could be here every week on the topic of education. I know you're committing to doing that for the next couple of weeks, hopefully, as your schedule is permitting it. One more call. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Sandra, thank you so much. I listened to Minister rebuttal when he said that although he's the finance minister, he has to answer to caucus. And I totally agree, because that is the policy, that's the actual steps and stones. But I want to say to Minister this. I went to Northside for the last couple of months, and I must say I have seen so much road work on that ministry. I have to say to myself, my God, if we would just put some of this money somewhere else. But I don't wrong Mr. J.E. Banks, because he said his district needed to be covered and decent roads. Georgetown is the capital. We have the schools, we have the hospitals, we have the airport, we have the government, we have the dump. And so for so long, there are so many roads in Georgetown that are flooded every year that have not been taken care of. And we have our children that this is the same problem, like I said before, and like I think as the minister has admitted, has been going on from the time he came in 2009. In 2009, if we cannot stop and take and make sure, like Mr. Steve just said, and I said this years ago with Rolston, why can't we not send our kids to the United Kingdom Army and train? They want to be gangsters, send them there on the front line, let them learn something. And those that don't want to learn something will not be returned into our society. Because let me tell you this, as bad as this sounds this morning, the first time a Caymanian holds me up with a knife or a gun, I'm going to tell them to get in my car because I'm going to take them to some ministers' houses that are millionaires. And I say, you rob them, don't rob me. And it sounds bad this morning because I have been in the government system for 37 years and I've been in the Ministry of Education. And the same topic, it keeps being rolled over. And my final word is, if Mr. J. Ebanks can use the money in his ministry to coat the whole of Northside and give them beautiful roads, what is our children's worth in the Cayman Islands who are going to be the future of our country? Have a great day.
All right. Let's move on to finance.
So, Sandra, just before we do, I want to make sure I'm clear. And to Lisa, I don't think anything I said was a rebuttal. I was just expounded upon just one very small point. But the point around allocating resources across the country is something that every government has to deal with. And that's something that we certainly are dealing with. On the point made by the male caller, which I think it was 80 from The Voice, I'm not sure if he heard when I talked about the fact that myself and the Minister of Social Development are going to be getting together to look at what keys and that alternative type of system needs to look like. He's talked about one style, and that is a style that a number of countries still use. That is, some people used to call it reform school. And they call it reform because you were about reforming lives and changing behaviors, right? And that's what we're talking about here, because he's 100% right. Kit gloves have to be taken off. We have to be realistic. We either deal with the issues more strongly when children are at school, or they're going to wind up in Northwood or dead. So it's sort of, those are your two choices. And so that is certainly what we're looking at doing, because we need to get impact. The impact needs to be positive for our children's lives.
All right. We're going to pause on that conversation because I do know the minister wants to get to some elements regarding the budget and finance. And we also need to address what dropped yesterday, which was the Water Authority increasing its fees. So I'm not going to take any more calls at the moment because I feel like we're going to get stuck here. But Minister, we have some documents that you sent through to us, monthly surplus and deficits.
That's right.
Finance, I find that a lot of people struggle with understanding. It's not an easy topic. Most of us can't even budget our own lives, much less the government, which has an almost $1 trillion budget. Is it that close?
No.
Anyway, it's a lot.
1.4 billion.
It's a lot of money.
Sandra, if we had that, man, I would have all of my specialists hired. Sandra, we'd have big surpluses. We'd have a huge fund that would be set aside for general reserve and all that good stuff. No, 1.4 billion, which is still a significant amount of money.
Yes, maybe I was thinking about the U.S. government.
Is significant, right? The cost of running government is significant.
Yes.
Sandra, the reason I wanted to bring this up today is because of the reckless behavior of the opposition. And I said, absolutely reckless behavior. Sandra, if you go down, if I want your audience, and Sandra, I want you to keep this, right? And we're going to update this every month, and I'm going to be sending this out to yourself and media houses because the public needs to understand how our budget actually works. I say to people all the time, picture yourself like a person in tourism that has a very distinct busy season, and that's when you make the most of your money. But then a slow season is going to come and you're going to make less money. That's what happens with the Cayman Islands government. There's two reasons for that. In law, the vast majority of all of our financial services products, their licenses are due by March 31st. So they're going to pay their fees between January 1 and March 31st. Otherwise, they incur a penalty. On top, excuse me, Sandra, on top of that, when is our busy season for tourism? December, January, February, March. Those are our busiest months. So guess when we get the most tourism dollars in government in terms of our hotel accommodation tax, etc. January through March. So if you look at that, the document I've sent through, that is the surplus or deficit, that actual cash flow. This is actually the money flowing into government every single month. So you will see in every year, even in 2020, when we incurred an overall deficit for the year, at the end of March, I can't read that because I from here, Sandra, but it's $198 million that we would have shown as a quote unquote surplus. So if the government at that point in 2021 had gone out and recklessly said, oh, we have $198 million more than we've spent. Woohoo, let's go spend the money. Look at what happens April through December. This is just a fact of how the Cayman Islands government's budget works. We make the vast majority of our money in the first quarter. Every other month is typically a deficit because of financial services and tourism. Financial services and tourism are the anchor of our economy. Therefore, when you have a discrete busy season for both industries that actually overlap, that's when we make all of our money. So for the opposition to get up, knowing this, because every member of the opposition, except I think Mr. Tatum and Miss Paulina McGollum's, they're the only two members of the opposition who has never served in cabinet. And by the way, they're freshman legislators. So take the two of them. For me personally, I take the two of them and I say, you know what? Let's not, they're not veteran legislators. They may not know all of this of what's up on the screen, right? Mr. Tatum should, because he used to be the assistant to the former premier, but let's just say he wasn't elected. So let's give him a pass. But for the rest of the opposition to get up and come to the country and say, oh, you see, the government don't care about you. They're bragging about a $321 million surplus. That money just should be given back to you and serving you, knowing that every month going forward, we're going to have a deficit. That quote unquote surplus, that excess amount of money is how we ride out the rest of the year. You see it. Facts don't lie. I mean, those are the actual monthly surplus deficits for the last 6 years. So I gave 5 full years, a half a decade. And mind you, Sandra, I did the exercise. I mean, I have the document that shows a decade. This has been this is not a new thing for Cayman. This is how our budget has always behaved, because that's how our economy is built. It's built on financial services and tourism. And so what do we get? We get Mr. Kenneth Bryan, who seems to be the de facto leader of the opposition, who gets up at every corner to fool the public. Now, according to him, we got a cost of living crisis. He was a cabinet minister up until last April. So cost of living wasn't an issue up until April 30th, 2025. I want Mr. Bryan to get back to reality, because he seems to have really, really dropped off a deep end, right? He seems to have really, really dropped off a deep end, because all of a sudden now that he's in the opposition, now he can tell the government of all the ways in which we're supposed to spend money, all the ways in which we're supposed to address cost of living. Why wasn't he doing it when he was a minister? What we are currently doing, I have doubled ECAP. That's money going directly to the most vulnerable children and Caymanian families. I didn't hear him advocate for that in any budget. We got in and immediately increased it from $925,000 to $2.1 million per year. We heard and we see the cries. That's why we've rolled out the fuel relief program, Sandra. $8.5 million that we are foregoing and putting back in people's pockets. So what sort of nonsense is he talking about? That we got a big surplus at the end of the first quarter. So now government got $321 million. So I can tell you, I would be very scared to have him back in cabinet ever. Because if you were in cabinet and you are now serving more than one term in the parliament, and you are willing to play this sort of politics around public finances, to go on public airways and therefore fool the public, because that's all this is about. This is about trying to fool the public. This is throwing a rock over there and getting people's attention to try and make the government look bad. In my mind, reckless politics. Absolutely reckless politics. Now, Sandra, let's get to the whole issue of the Water Authority. Every element of government needs to always be looking at itself and saying, what are we doing? What's the impact that we're going to do? When the minister came with the proposal, of course, our immediate reaction was, well, you know, Minister, we don't know if we can support this on the face of it. But we said, look, give us the presentations. Let us actually get the facts. Fact is, Sandra, I don't know about you, but I can tell the world, I don't get any constituents calling me about water bills. They call me about electricity bills. That's what people call me about. Average water bill isn't a huge issue to the average Caymanian. Here's why. The cost of water in Cayman is extremely cheap. We do a fantastic job across both utilities to provision potable water at an affordable rate. Here's the facts. The average bottled water, gallon of bottled water, is $2.68. These are the facts now. Do you know what it's going to be from Water Authority? Even with this increase, 3 cents per gallon. 3 cents per gallon. Do you know what the average increase is going to be? The average increase of an existing home whose bill is $89.33 with this increase is going to go up to $92.01. An increase of $2.68 per month. The minister did his work. Minister DaCosta did his work, and you got to give him credit. Initially, the caucus said we're very resistant, but when he came at the facts, to us, and we saw that, okay, the authority does need to operate and be able to build out its infrastructure. What are we going to do? Say to the Water Authority, no. For the sake of such a minimal increase, this is not going to have any huge cost of living impact to Caymanians. The government would never have increased this and agreed to this increase if we'd saw where this was going to harm the average Caymanian. The average consumer, residential consumer's bill is going to increase $2.68 a month. $2.68 per month. And the vast majority of their residential pool, over 80% of their customers, I think it's something around that, around 80% of their customers are in that bracket, are in that average range. So this isn't just a small percentage because listen, the vast majority of people don't just turn on their tap and leave it running. You wash, you take a shower, you do your dishes, tap's turned off. And so when the minister brought facts to us, facts, not feelings, we were like, oh my goodness. Increase the Grand Cayman residential. We go from 0.01 cents, 0.16 cents per gallon the average increase is going to be 0.001 cent per gallon. That's what the average increase is going to be. So what kind of foolishness he's running around?
0.001.
That's the numbers,
That
that comes up. So bottom line is the increase, in piped residential is 234 is the average Cayman Brac residential piped water. So that's the cost across the entire portfolio, Sandra. But in terms of the actual impact, $2.68 per person. That's the bottom line. $2.68. Yes, we in the government are cognizant of rising costs. That's why we rolled out the fuel relief program. But to now go to the Water Authority, who has been begging for this increase, and mind you, let's be clear now, these prices are still going to be less than we're paying in West Bay. Because remember, we have two water companies in this country. We have Cayman Water Company, and we have the Water Authority, right? And so for a long time, I have said that water should cost the same across these islands. I can say, Sandra, without fear of contradiction, the average Caymanian is not going to have any huge cost of living increase because of this agreed increase that we've granted to ensure that the Water Authority remains a viable entity. They have to maintain the level of service they have. Or what are we going to do? Just say to them, no, don't increase, but then we're going to subsidize them and take money out of central government to subsidize them? Well, listen, it's all quote unquote the same pot, Sandra, because government owns the Water Authority in this instance. And so whether they get the allocated resources they need by spreading it, and that's the beauty of water, because they produce so many gallons, so many millions of gallons per annum. When you spread that cost across all those gallons, the impact per person is so small, but it's so meaningful to the authority, right? So it's not going to have a huge impact per customer because they have thousands of customers. But when you aggregate it, it allows them to be able to operate and be efficient. And so, Sandra, I just don't get this level of politics where you're going to be taking public finances, which you led off with. Most people don't understand, and it's really, really easy to get lost in the sauce. And then play this game of smoke and mirrors to fool the public purely for political gain. I just think that's reckless. I think it's completely irresponsible. And I wonder, I really, really wonder, because as far as I'm aware, their spokesman for finance is Mr. Roy McTaggart. I wonder what Mr. McTaggart has to say about this. Not Mr. Bryan, who continues to spout off at the mouth at every turn just to try and make the government look bad. This is pure politics, unadulterated politics. He's refusing to tell the public the truth that this is not going to have a material impact. Now, let's debate the real issues. Real issues are we need to take care of our most vulnerable families. Real issues are those family members who just called in and wrote in. That's where we need to be strategically allocating more resources to ensure that we keep Caymanians out of poverty and from going down a life of crime from the time they're in school. I'll debate those all day and all night, but don't come out. And Sandra, if you could put up that graphic again in regards to the annual budget. Don't come out and tell the public, you know that the rest of the months we're going to be having deficits. That 328 million needs to fund the next 9 months of the year. Not only that, Sandra, we've already given up 8.5 million in the fuel relief program. 8.5 million. 8.5 million is going to be given up. We also are contemplating in government, are we going to have to extend that program beyond 4 months? We don't know what's going to happen in the crisis and the war in the Middle East. Right now, the 8.5 million is for a 4-month program. We may need to actually extend that program further. So the fact is, we are being wholly responsible because we still need to operate government. If we don't have enough we got to pay the teachers, we got to pay the policemen, we got to pay the doctors, we got to pay nurses, we got to pay people to show up at government admin, we got to pay people at the Department of Vehicle and Equipment Services. We need to pay all our public servants. And so if we go and take the $328 million, as Mr. Bryan has suggested, and go on a free-for-all, willy-nilly spending spree and giving away everything that government has, how does government then be able to fund its operations? The key for us, Sandra, is striking that balance where we provision our services, and in an economy where we don't have direct income taxes, use the tools available to us to provide a cost of living increase, a relief. Fuel is the biggest factor in our cost of living. That's where we attacked fuel. And the thing is, Mr. Bryan should know this, because in 2023, they did a fuel relief program. Right? That government did that program. They didn't do it on fuel. They did it just at CUC. We decided to open the envelope and do it across the entire economy to really try to drive down cost of living for Caymanians and people who live in Cayman and have their being here. Because the more money we put in the economy, in our opinion, the more money we put in people's hands, the better off Caymanians are. And hopefully that continues to spur economic growth and business growth in the community as well, which only serves in the long term to make Cayman a better place. Now, Sandra, I know people don't follow Parliament 100%. Let me make sure I say this show, and I'm going to say it every time I come on, we discuss finances. I have told the caucus that I have no issue if in 2026 we need to provide relief to Caymanians to the point that we incur a deficit for the year. Deficits are not in of themselves bad. Habitual deficits where you then have to borrow to fund the recurring expenditure of government is what's bad. Every country in this world uses their budget as a key tool for how you manage the country. And there are times where strategically you look on, you say, okay, these are the actions we're going to take. We know it could create a deficit, but we feel confident of the strength of the economy that by the next year or the subsequent years, you'll have a surplus and you'll be okay, right? And so I said this in Parliament. I'll say it on this show. I'll say it on any show that I'm on. We are not going to be so dogmatic, have such a dogmatic approach around surplus and deficits that we don't help our people. And we will help Caymanians to the point that if we have a 2026 deficit, in my opinion, so be it. What I know is, and what I feel very confident is, the crisis in the Middle East isn't going to go on forever. Fuel prices will regularize at some point in the future. We just don't know when. And so we hope and we're confident by 2027, because remember now, we have 3 revenue measures that's going to take full effect next year. Because that's the other issue that we have. We purposely, and this was in the budget, but I'll say it here, Sandra. You reminded me. Don't say it a million times. Say it 1,000,001. The exempted company fees and the company fees for incorporated companies did not take effect in 2026 because we introduced it in November of last year, and businesses get very upset when you roll that out that late in the year, because the vast majority of our financial services companies have already done their billing to their clients from October and November. But they start billing, some of them have such a big book of business, they start the billing from September, actually. And so we purposely delayed that to 2027. So we know that those are going to be additional monies. We know that immigration, we delayed the implementation until May 1. So that means that we went from January through April 30th without the new fee measures around, in particular around permanent residency as it relates to immigration. And the minister responsible for planning, lands, agriculture, and infrastructure, housing and infrastructure, his team is now finalizing the whole issue around driver's licenses for non-Caymanians and the registration of vehicles for non-Caymanians. So that still hasn't come into effect yet, but we'll get a full benefit of that in 2027. So I feel very, very, very good about where the budget is, how it's performing. And the fact is, we're now going to use all the tools available, but especially those that we believe can have the greatest impact. And the greatest impact, in the opinion of government, is around fuel and the cost of energy with CUC and Island Energy in Cayman Brac.
All right. The former minister, Mr. Bryan, he does want to call into the program, and he's wondering if you would have an issue with that.
Sandra, I do not call into the program when Kenneth Bryan is on Radio Cayman. He has his Wednesdays. We'll be in Parliament. I can debate Kenneth Bryan then. Sandra, with all due respect, he is very disrespectful as a parliamentarian. That's my opinion, and I'll stick with it. He said there could be 4 years of debate. I don't think he ever served with Rolston, Malachi, Anglin. I went up against Kurt Tibbetts and Alden McLaughlin. I'm not afraid of Kenneth Bryan. We'll have our time to debate, Mr. Bryan. You had your say Wednesday. I'm going to have my say every Friday, Thursday, or Friday on the show. I'm not going to disrupt your show. Go ahead and say what you want on Radio Cayman. I'm going to say my opinion on this show, Sandra. This show is not about political debate. It's the cold, hard truth. We'll be in Parliament later. We'll have a lot of time for debate with Mr. Bryan.
Okay.
Bottom line, thin-skinned and can't take it. He can give it, but he can't take it. I take his foolishness every Wednesday. I let him have his say. I never call in his show. Then he called in my show.
All right. This listener to the program says, plus and respect to increase in water is if the water authority didn't get permission to increase their costs, then government would no doubt have to give them extra funds, and then everyone would be paying for that at a higher cost. So, in other words, it's got to come from somewhere. Ms. Charlene and Blissful Powell says, please give the minister kaboom on that point. Mood Mender says you will increase more poverty in this country. So when we look at the actual 0.001 or 2 cents per gallon that you were talking about, is that really going to increase poverty in this country?
It's an average of $2.68 per customer. $2.68. We looked at this very, very carefully. This was not something that we agreed to. As I said in the first instance, the minister and his team did their work. We heard them out. We looked on, and it was at that point that he could show us that the volume of water that they produce, when you spread the increase over that volume, the impact to individual households was going to be relatively small.
All right, and here are the costs associated. Again, a breakdown of for Grand Cayman residents, Cayman Brac, and increase for CYB trucked water versus residential, because some people get it piped still and some people have to have it trucked on the Brac. Because I'm still surprised that not everyone in Cayman Brac has access to pipe water from the water authority.
Yeah, they're still building out the network up there.
Okay, all right.
That has been a long-standing issue, and I'm glad that previous governments, got moving on that, because one country, we need to have the same level of service as for all of our country, for all Caymanians. So yes, that system is currently being built out. And so, Sandra, let me be very, very clear, Sandra, because every one of us have a way in which we believe public decorum and debate ought to happen. Let me be very, very clear. I am not going to debate anyone on a public airway, and I'm not going to call in when they are on their show. He has his time on any show that he wants to be on. The Parliament is the place for public debate. That's where the public sends us. We will debate all these issues then. It's that simple. He puts out his videos. I simply am responding on behalf of the government. That's the bottom line of my position on this. I'm not going to get into no row around what are facts. I gave the facts of the budget. That document, that same document, Sandra, that you put up, I gave the opposition a 10-year spread of that in Finance Committee. All of this is publicly available information. Plain and simple. They want to be able to, as old people, as we would say in Cayman, run up their mouth. But as soon as somebody answers them, then they won't come and get in a shouting match. I didn't have any shouting match with him. He can have his time on his shows. I have my time on our shows. It's that simple. Parliament will be very lively for the next three plus years. And I can tell the world, if he thinks that I am afraid to debate him on any topic in the Parliament, then he has another thing coming. Plain and simple. You have to have thick skin when you're in politics. This is part of the game, part of the profession, Sandra. We endure every Wednesday of them getting on and saying all manner of evil about the government and what the government isn't doing. And the government is doing a lot of work in the background, right? Let's use this fuel relief program. When they moved the motion, Sandra, on this show, in Parliament and on this show, you'll recall, I got up and produced the document showing that from March the 12th, I had sent instructions to that financial secretary to create proposed relief programs. We were doing all that work in the background. Then the opposition could just sit there and just move motion after motion, move motion after motion. I don't know why they didn't do it when they were there, but they move motion after motion. So here's the reality. The work had started. We had already had the program 90% complete. What I said to the government was, and I'll repeat this, as I said in Parliament, and I said it on your show a few weeks ago. I said to the government, I want us to get through Q1, i.e. March the 31st, see what the results were, because I knew that would be our most robust months, so that we truthfully could go to the public and say, here's what we can truly afford. And remember, the war in Iran started in late February, right? When the US invaded Iran. I think it was February 22nd or somewhere around there. So it's not like the government ignored what was happening for over a year with the fuel crisis. The fuel crisis is, the spiking in fuel is less than 3 months old, folks. Around 3 months old. So it's not like we've been just sitting on our hands, right? And so we've rolled out a robust program that is going to help the vast majority of Caymanians and going to provide a lot of relief in the economy. Do we see areas that we're going to work on even more? Yes. I can say the Minister for Social Development made a commitment in Parliament. Firstly, he said that he was pausing the reevaluation of persons on DFA by DFA because there were complaints that people's amounts were being cut. So he paused that and said to his team, we need to do a wholesale review of where we are. We need to also look at, he committed to looking at two elements as I understand it. One, there was a complaint made, and it's been a long-standing issue. If you move out of Cayman, Sandra, and your domicile changes and you go, say, live in the UK or you live in the US, you come back home, there's an 8-month period that is required for you to reestablish your domicile back into Cayman and then be eligible for services. The minister's already committed publicly. This is not behind closed doors. He committed in Parliament to looking at that. Now, apparently there's a motion that's being proposed around that. That's fine. You know, the opposition can move whatever motion they want. But the fact is, the minister made his commitment. The minister made a commitment at looking at this whole system. And he is working hard. Minister Rankin is working hard. Government, you can't snap your fingers and have big policy changes. That's just not how government can work. You can't, the minister can't walk into caucus one day and say, right, let's increase DFA to $5,000 a month. We need to look at all the implications. We have a lot on our plate, right? The opposition calls for COLA increases. Every $1 million. Here's the facts, Sandra. Here are monthly results of the Cayman Islands government, right? If we're projecting just in personnel costs, our original budget, $569 million. That's for central government, Sandra. Every 1% increase is therefore how much money? A lot of money. $5.6 million. So I need more specialists in schools. Every other ministry has certain areas that they have needs. Where's all this money going to miraculously come from? Because remember now, according to the opposition, we shouldn't have increased fees in financial services. We shouldn't have touched any fees. Yet they wanted a COLA increase. Yet they want fuel relief. Yet they want more money for DFA. Yet they're saying, Water Authority, don't increase anything. If you follow the opposition and the Kenneth model, this country will be financially ruined. That's the reality of it. And you think public finances don't matter? Get into habitual deficits like existed between 2008 and 2011 and see what's going to happen when it comes to dealing with the UK. I can say that the UK feels very comfortable and know very much that this government is responsible. They have full confidence in the budget that we've created. I have met with the FCDO and they understand that I take public finances extremely serious because we can talk about all the things we want to do. No budget, no services. Got to have the budget, Sandra. We got to make the money and we got to do what it takes to make that money. And sometimes it's increasing fees. I can tell the world. And I said it during the budget and I can say it again. You reminded me this morning, $1,000,001 time. I am already looking at new areas of revenue for the next budget cycle in financial services driven by ideas that they're coming to us with. So these aren't things that some of them are ideas that we come up with, right? We looked at, for example, the accountant and lawyer fees. And we said, those two industries create a lot of wealth and on average, high earnings. I don't see any big four or big law firm partners or associates or anybody marching in the streets about the fees that we increased. And on top of that, Sandra, which average Caymanian goes and uses Maples or Walkers or Morant or PwC or EY? Again, that is all financial services driven, right? So what we are doing is leveraging the biggest piece of our economy that can afford it the most. And is there a tipping point? Of course. We can't just roll out of bed one day and say that we're just going to increase fees by 3,000-4,000% across every bit of the industry. We are very strategic. It's very surgical. And let me repeat, a lot of the raises were actually fees that they came to us and said, look, we understand the issue. Government needs to make additional monies. Think about this, this, and this, because we know that our clients are going to pay it, and this is not going to make him uncompetitive, because we would never do that. We're never going to take our public finances and put them at risk. The country needs to be on a sound financial footing for us to be able to afford all of the things that this country so desperately needs, including additional resources at our schools. So here I am, on the one hand, talking about the fact that we need resources in schools to make our children's lives better. We got to pay for it, Sandra. On the other hand, we got to pay for it. And so at the end of the day, whether we like it or not, there's nothing called a free lunch in this world. And so in Cayman, we have to map out our way. This is a big, tough world out there. There's no government in the world that can just print money and say, because if it's that simple, which country would be poor? So we have to ensure that we do what is right for Caymanians, for the Cayman Islands, to create an environment that is sustainable. That is the piece of government, that piece of work that the government is doing.
All right. It's difficult balancing all of these interests, no doubt. I mean, once again, just in the household, we have to balance, sometimes which bills to pay. And, sometimes it's like, okay, I can't handle this one this month. That's going to wait till next month. And I can only imagine the competing interests that a government has. And we've seen the wastage before. So, I mean, that part of what you've said shouldn't really be a surprise. So we've seen when governments say, oh, I'm going to build this exorbitant over the top school in Cayman Brac, that we really couldn't afford at that level. Yes, Cayman Brac needs infrastructure improvements. Cayman Brac needed a school perhaps, but wow, what was being proposed was really, really crazy. And then you, as the new education minister and finance minister, has to come in and find a way to roll that back and to balance it without cutting the project entirely, because they ensured that it would be impossible for you to cut the project, right? It was already started and on the way.
And Sandra, here's what was frustrating for me, right? Apparently, what the project manager and the minister reported to me is that successive governments looked at Clifton Hunter and John Gray, which everybody knew were recklessly built. Did we need new campuses? Yes, we did. But we did not need grandiose campuses. Grandiose buildings don't teach children. Go look at prep. Go look at Catholic. Go look at Island Primary. Right? Go look at Montessori by the Sea. Go look at some of the finest schools we have in this country. And none of them have any grandiose school plan. But apparently the policy was, if we made a mistake in the past and built grandiose, we must build grandiose forever because it was equal provision. And I looked at him and I said, that policy no longer exists. I took him. I made arrangements to go to a private school. One was prep because they have a single style 3-story building, which is the way in which the vast majority of good school campuses are built. I'm going to make sure that they can get out and see Island Primary and see a number of schools that are modern, recently built, good schools. This foolishness about that we need to follow old systems and say, if it was grandiose 10 years ago, we must continue to be grandiose because equal provision. No, we need to be sensible. We need to be fiscally responsible. The other thing that we're working on is changing the procurement law. Because there's a price for government and there's a price for the private sector. And I have made it very, very clear to the governor that we have gone so over the top with how we actually execute that we waste money. Let me give you an example, Sandra. Do you know that there's very limited scope that government can actually get out there and negotiate? Because someone somewhere over the last 12 years decided that what we needed to do was we needed to have this system where, and I love the openness of Bonfire. Don't get me wrong. That is critically important. Critically important that we have that open and transparent system. But then we don't overlay it with very sensible and reasonable accommodation. Sandra, if you needed to build a 10,000 square foot building and you went to 4 companies, when you make your final decision, aren't you then going to go, because you got your bids now, you can compare, you see who does MEP for what, and so now you as the owner can now say, I really want to go with this company, but it looks like their MEP, the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing element is a little higher because here's what the other 2 bidders bid it for. And you then enter negotiation, right? You enter into a direct negotiation and say, okay, we want to go with you, but we really, really need to see how we can bring this cost down. No, that's not how our system works. Big picture, that's not how our system works. Right? Because let's restrict this in such a way, because and I can tell the world,
Mhm.
I don't know any time in the history of Cayman where we had anything in these islands called systemic corruption,
Mhm.
right? Where, oh well, this one is that all this foolishness is happening like that happens in a lot of other countries.
Mhm.
They took a sledgehammer to try and kill an ant. And
Mm.
so this system needs to be right sized so that government can actually, because when people look on and see these prices, they're often saying, well, why is government paying that amount? A big part of the driver is the actual procurement system. And that's why we're currently reviewing the procurement law. And I'll tell you the other thing that happens, and I'm going to say this again because I've said it before.
Mhm.
Small Caymanian-owned companies can't participate in government projects. You know why? Government is still the poorest paymaster. Sandra, I had to have, since being in office, I think it's 5 vendors contact me as minister
Mhm.
with bills that weren't paid by education, and some of the bills were over a year old. The
Mhm.
work in place, small company. How can a small company go without, in one instance, like $60,000?
Oh my gosh.
So do you know what they're going to do the next time they bid with government projects?
They're probably not going to bid.
First of all, a lot of them don't. A lot of
Yeah.
them just can't afford to carry that, right? So it's left to only the big companies then. But those who then bid, they factor that into their price. So they increase the price and say to themselves, well, you know what? I know I'm not going to get paid the amount of money that I should on a timely basis. Therefore, I need to factor in how my cash flows is going to work because I'm probably going to have to run an overdraft at the bank. And so all we're doing is just layering cost on top of cost to government and systematically excluding good small Caymanian contractors from participating meaningfully in a lot of the government projects that we have. That cycle has to end. We have to do better, right? I spoke to the procurement office and they said to me, oh, well, agencies can issue a mobilization fee. What's that, Sandra? If you're going to do a significant project, let's just say that government needed a small building done at one of the primary schools, and let's just say it was a part of a hall and it's a $5 million project. How many companies, even if they're good builders, can actually execute a contract like that at that level with the amount of resources you have to put behind it without a decent amount of mobilization? Now, mobilization, what people are going to say is, oh, but there's a risk because suppose they don't finish the contract. Yes, that's true. That's where you go on a person's experience. If the company's been around for 10, 15, 20 years, they can give you their resume of the buildings they've built. Then what's the real issue? It's about managing risk, right? And what we've done is we have systematically put so many barriers to good, solid Caymanians who, if they were able to participate in the tens and tens of millions of dollars that government spends on capital every year, you could start to see a lot of them get back to that middle class, that all-important middle class. So government has a key role to recreating, Sandra, the middle class in this country, which has been decimated. And it's been decimated over the last few decades. This isn't a yesterday thing. But government has a role to play. The Minister of Finance has a role to play. And that's the work that we're doing in the background to make sure that we create systems that are going to ensure that corruption doesn't take place or restrict, or let's put it this way, put strong enough measures in place that it would be extremely difficult to have it happen, while at the same time ensuring that Caymanians can participate. Sandra, we can't continue this road. This road is just not the road that's built for Caymanians, and we need to ensure that when government is executing these projects, good, solid Caymanian companies can participate.
All right. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, folks. Gone just about an hour into overtime. We know that the minister is extremely busy, and he has committed to coming back on the program hopefully next week, his schedule permitting. So
Calling Sandra, they be
Yes.
carrying too bad on every ends on these other talk shows. So the government needs to have an answer.
Yeah.
I'm tired
All
of
right.
being a punching bag for foolishness.
All right. Well, we appreciate it. We had lots of comments that we did not get to, but rest assured, if it was something, especially for education, I have screenshot those and I have sent those across to his team so that the minister and his team can sit down and review them, and we'll get to them next week.
Please
for example,
send me the numbers, Sandra, because there was about 3 callers that we do need to contact based on what they said here on air.
Yeah.
This is about making sure that we're addressing every issue that the public brings to us.
Yes.
That's another important part of Minister Matters, because not only am I explaining what we're doing and why we're doing it, but the public now gets to ensure that when they hear a topic that they may not have thought of, or may just not have felt bold or brave enough, they can now say, you know what? Let me ensure that the minister gets to hear because I don't get to hear every story, Sandra. It's only one of me, right? But the more feedback I can get, the better. Not only is it about that person's individual problem, but a lot of times an individual problem could be something that many other families are facing. And so therefore, trying to correct it for one family, you're helping a lot of families.
Right. All right. Another episode, folks, of Minister Matters. The minister will be back next week, so make sure that you tune in. And we've got other ministers coming on. I'm not sure when Mr. J will be back, but I know, for example, he has a series of meetings across all 3 islands, and we'll be ensuring that there's adequate coverage for those as well. So, you guys know where to keep it locked right here, of course, on Cayman Mall Road, as we, stay on top of what's happening in our country, what's happening with government. And these are the things, folks, that makes a difference in all of our lives. I saw somebody in the comment section, I don't know who it was directed at, but saying to somebody, because I can't sometimes see the flow of conversation, but they were saying something about, we don't have apartments like you or whatever. Listen, I don't care who has what apartments and who doesn't have what apartments. What I can tell you, folks, is that most people are struggling. Even if you have some rental income coming in, that can only take you so far. A lot of Caymanians have these properties and they've got mortgages and other things on them. So don't assume because you see someone, they have an apartment or they own something. 99.99999% of the time, it's the bank who actually owns it, not even the individual. And so they've got mortgages to pay. They've got utilities to pay just like you. They may have rent coming in. The bank, when the bank has a mortgage on that property, they take the rent. That's not a free for all. That's not someone sitting down making millions of dollars in their bank. We gotta start to understand finances like a little bit better on an individual level. We need some courses, we need some education, because it makes us draw conclusions even in our own lives and about what other people have going on in their lives that just isn't accurate. So we want to thank the minister, the Honorable Rolston Anglin, for coming on to the program today. It was a very, very good discussion overall. Lots of things more to come. And I think with this regular conversation, this regular discourse through the Ministry Matters program with the different ministers of government, I feel like we will get there. This level of open communication is very, very important. Blissful Powell, thank you for this comment. She says to 10:30 a.m. This was a very informative show. Thank you, Minister. We needed to hear these updates. I appreciate you. And I know that so many people certainly share that sentiment that Blissful British does as well. So, Minister, thank you. And we will see you back here next week.
Sandra, thank you very much. I just want to wish all Caymanians, wherever you may be, all persons who live and work and make Cayman their home, a blessed and a blessed Thursday. I do want to say, Sandra, I normally end with this. I want us to continue to keep all of the families who are mourning the passing of loved ones in our prayers. I know that we have an employee within the ministry who's grieving right now, and we certainly pray for her and her family because it is critically important that we continue to lift each other up in prayer. Let's not look across the fence and try to see what our neighbor has or doesn't have. Let's think about how can we work hard? How can we take advantage of all these opportunities that we do have in Cayman, the best place on God's green earth, and make our lives better? not looking at what someone else has. You don't know their journey and how they had to get there.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know the sacrifices that they may have to have made. You don't know the number of weekends they may have had to work, or the overtime, or giving up weekends with kids, etc. Let's look at ourselves and say, how can we position ourselves? Because look, Cayman is still the best place on earth to be. We got to be thankful for being Caymanians. Let us work hard. The government is going to do our very endeavor best to continue education reform, immigration reform, fuel relief programs where appropriate, to make the lives of Caymanians better. And I thank you for putting that up, Sandro, because I had made this as a mental note, but I'd forgotten about it. I do want to also play a special shout out to Mr. Elroy Brian Watler, who has been now confirmed as the new Deputy Chief Officer in the Ministry of Education and Training. He had been acting, I think, since 2024. He's now confirmed in post. We have a few acting principals, and I'm hoping that they will be confirmed in post pretty soon. And Sandra, let me just make sure that the public understands this. What a lot of time with Caymanians is, where there's a vacancy and a promotion opportunity, a lot of them do get put into a position and they act in that position. But then through our public management law, a lot of times the chief officer isn't necessarily allowed to do a direct appointment to the person, even though they may be doing a fantastic job. They then have to advertise it, the person interviews, and then gets confirmed in post. And that's what I'm happy to say for Mr. Brian Watler is he went through a competitive process, acted for a couple of years, went through a competitive process, and is now confirmed. And I know he's a former teacher. He's a former principal at the Lighthouse School. He's a former assistant deputy director at the Department of Education Services, and he's now in the ministry. So he brings a real wealth of information, a real wealth of experience and knowledge that is going to be of benefit. You can hear me talk about all these policies, etc. It's persons like Mr. Brian, Ms. Cacho, Mr. Jerome McCoy, and the senior leadership team in the ministry that have to execute on all these. So while I'm committed to a real reform agenda, it is the hard-working public officers in finance in my ministry, in recruitment and talent acquisition, in the human resources section of the ministry. It's a lot of hardworking people who we depend on every day. And I just want to thank them for all the hard work they put in every day at school level, department level, ministry level, because that's how we make the system work.
All right. On that note, thank you so very, very much. And again, congratulations to Mr. Elroy Brian Watler and his appointment as Deputy Chief Officer in the Ministry of Education and Training. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister Rolston Anglin. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, folks, that's all she wrote. What Mr. Amelia said, but boy, no, listen, they must like you. She gone into overtime. We go into overtime on a regular basis on the show. Thank goodness I have the luxury of being able to do that. Only on social media though, because radio station, that's a whole different bill over there. So we can't do overtime on that. But yes, we try to accommodate the ministers when they do come on. We try to work with them. Some days they have to cut it very, very short. They can't go into overtime. So we go based on their schedule. Other times they have a little bit more flex. We work with that too. We take it where we can get it, honey child. So thank you so much. Tune in tomorrow morning. Tomorrow is Friday already. I cannot believe it. We'll have another great segment lined up for everyone. Sydney, good morning. I'm just seeing your comment here. Sydney says he's a very open minister who's willing to keep the listening public informed. And again, some of your comments and questions we did not get to, but rest assured, I've screenshot what I could and sent those on to the ministerial team. And a few people who directly were communicating that want to speak to the minister have passed on your numbers and so forth as well. All right. See you guys tomorrow morning. Have a beautiful, brilliant, super productive day.
From June 1st through September 30th, government is removing import duty on gasoline and diesel to help cushion the impact of rising global fuel prices on Caymanian families and businesses. This is part of our fuel relief program,
and reflects our deep commitment to using every tool available to manage cost of living pressures. While the duty waiver takes effect on June 1st, consumers may not see an immediate change at the pumps. That's because fuel already in storage tanks was imported before the waiver began and has already had duty paid on it. As existing fuel inventories are sold and replaced with the duty-free fuel, the benefit of the waiver will begin flowing through the supply chain. By mid-June, as duty-free fuel reaches most service stations, consumers should begin to see the impact of the duty waiver. However, fuel prices will still be influenced by international market conditions. We could see one of three outcomes. Prices may decrease if the duty waiver is greater than any increase in global fuel prices. Prices may stay about the same if international price increases are roughly equal to the value of the duty relief. Or prices could still increase if global fuel prices rise more than the duty waiver provided by government. What is important to understand is that without this action, fuel cost would be even higher. Government and ERCO will continue monitoring fuel prices to help ensure consumers receive the full benefit of this relief measure.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Cold Hard Truth on Bobo 89.1 FM. Cayman's #1 talk show is live weekdays from 7:30 a.m. Never miss an episode again. Watch anytime on CMR's Facebook and YouTube channels for the latest show episodes. Don't forget to follow us online on our social media channels. And visit CaymanMarlRoad.com for all the latest news and community happenings.